All right, so as I said previously, we got to understand the bigger picture of everything that we are doing. Okay, so our journey, our path is to leading us to become a full stack data scientist, right? And we need to know what are the things that entails, or what are the things that we need to do in order to become a full stack data scientist. So we got to understand that data science actually contains artificial intelligence, right? And inside artificial intelligence, we have machine learning, we have deep learning, then we have computer vision and natural language processing, as well as some other specializations that you can find when it comes to in artificial intelligence. All right, so let's revise of the bigger picture that we earlier on saw, right? So that we will bring ourselves up to speed as we move to a new dimension altogether, right? So we first started with machine learning and then we got rid of that, right? And then we also said that we're going to focus on deep learning. And inside deep learning, we say that we will first treat computer vision, and then after that, we treat natural language processing, all right? And then we put all of them together, which will form our data science journey to be complete, all right? So in deep learning, we say that we have two main areas that we're going to focus, as we've talked about earlier on, which is computer vision and natural language processing. Okay, and then we also saw some applications of these two specializations. All right, so we said that in computer vision, you're going to mainly work on images and videos. All right, and then in natural language processing, you're going to work on text and then audio. All right, so in our previous tutorial, we've seen quite a lot of computer vision and the applications and some projects as well. Right, and now we're going to see how we work on text and then audio, right, moving forward. Okay, so we first treated some crucial concept in deep learning which you need before you move on to natural language processing. So everything that we have discussed so far in deep learning is going to be very crucial when we get started with natural language processing. Okay, so moving forward, we're going to start with natural language processing. Okay, and natural language processing, as I mentioned earlier on, is one of the crucial aspects or one of the crucial areas that you need to know when it comes to becoming a full stack data scientist. And in fact, natural language processing is having a wide range of applications in every industry out there, right? So if you want to have a job in, data science, it's quite crucial to have a natural language processing skills, right? Which we shorten to NLP. Right, it's very crucial to have that skills because almost every data point is having a test in it, which you need to process, and you need the skills of NLP to do that. All right, and that's why it's very important. Even if you want to become a computer vision engineer, you still need to understand certain concept of natural language processing in order to help you do well in your computer vision journey. Right, so this is a crucial skill regardless of which domain you want to specialize, whether computer vision or natural language processing itself. You still need to understand some crucial concept in natural language processing. All right, so that's what we're going to do. We're going to mainly focus on dealing with text and audio. Okay, all right, so if you're ready, then let's ride. All right, let's get started. Now we're going to have a brief introduction of data science and some of the key things that you need to know before we proceed to the various lessons. All right, so we'll do this in two parts. I've divided it into two different parts. That is part one and also part two. For the part one, we will first start with understanding of what the data science is. You might have the interest in becoming a data scientist, but what the domain actually is, you need to get to understand that. So we start with what data science is, and then the various expertise areas that we have in data science, and the difference, that is the main confusion that we have out there. That is the difference between data analytics and data science and artificial intelligence, machine learning, and then deep learning. Mostly when people are starting in this field, this is what confused them. This is what confused them a lot. What is the difference between all these buzzwords that you hear out there? So we first get an intuitive understanding of the various keywords over here, which is data analytics and data science, artificial intelligence, machine learning, and deep learning. And then we also see some of the applications of data science and the entire life cycle of data science. We also get ourselves familiar with that. And then I also show you some practical examples of data science in some domains and some industries, what they are using data science for. That will comprise the part one. For the part two, we will start talking about you, that you want to become a data scientist. But what is data scientist? We will first understand that, and the various career opportunities that we have in data science. We will discuss that, and the skills that you need to develop in order to become a data scientist. We will talk about that in the third topic in the part two. And then after that, I'll give you the ultimate path that you need to take if you want to become a data scientist. What you need to do step by step, I'll give you that path as well. And then I'll give you some backgrounds of some people who have become data scientists, what they were doing first, and before they changed their field to become data scientists, what they were doing at first. Because sometimes you feel like, my background is this and I want to become a data scientist. Is it possible? Have people done it before? Is it possible? So I'll give you some typical backgrounds of data scientists over here, and then we'll come to the most important part, which is the salary. Ultimately, we want to know if this field is really green, or if there's a good salary in that, because it involves a lot of work, a lot of dedication to become a data scientist. So you need to know if your salary is going to, it's worth it, dedicating the time, learning all of that. All right, so that's what we are going to do in this particular overview of data science. Okay, so let's start with the part one. All right, so for the part one, as I said, we're going to understand what data science is. So just like any other field, data science is not a single discipline. It's not a single field. It's for instance, if you take doctor, for instance, someone can say that I'm a doctor, but what kind of doctor are you? It's the same thing as saying that I'm a data scientist. What kind of data scientist are you? If we take doctor, for instance, someone can be cardiologist, someone can be a colon and rectal surgeon, someone can be critical care medicine specialist or dermatologist. All sort of things. Maybe family physicians, a lot of things, hematologists, and all those medical fields that one can become. It's the same thing as data science. Someone can become in data science, someone can become a statistical inference specialist, or data analyst, or data mining specialist, artificial intelligence specialist, in which the person will be focusing on more key areas like machine learning or deep learning, or going even deeper to computer vision or natural language processing. So someone can become a computer vision specialist or natural language processing practitioner. All right, so there are different domains in that. Going forward, I'm going to introduce you to different career opportunities that you can make when you want to make a career in data science. All right, so you can say you're a data scientist, but ideally you're going to work in a specific area, right? Especially when you're working in a good company or a well-established company. All right, you end up working in a more specialized area. Although you have the title as data scientist, but you're still going to work in a more specialized area. Sometimes people start with different areas and then they move on to another area to specialize over there. All right, and we're going to see some of the career opportunities that you're going to see. You can specialize ultimately. So this is just a brief understanding of what data science is. It's just like any other domain where you can specialize in different specific fields, and I'm going to introduce you to these specific fields as well. All right. Okay, so in a more concise form, this is how data science is being defined. Now, in data science, you do less of the analytics, and then you do more of the machine learning and AI stuff. Okay, and then you also do less or few of the inferences. Now, what I mean by this is that if you're working as a data scientist, it is possible that in your company there will be data analytics, there will be data engineers over there that will pull the data, clean it to some extent, and then store it in some data repository for you, which you can use further. So the part of the analytics, analyzing the data and all those stuff are going to be done mainly by the data analyst and also by the business analyst. All right. Now, the part that you are going to do more is when you're going to use more sophisticated methods like machine learning or deep learning or other AI concepts to bring more meaning to the data. That is building models and deploying it in the cloud system for it to become live and then use it to solve future problems. Okay, that's when you come in. Now, in data science, you work on a specific problem. You are not going to work on a problem which is going to solve a general which is going to give a general solution to the world. You're not going to solve the world's problem. You're going to solve a specific problem. Okay, so your model or your data science solution is going to gear towards a specific problem or specific business problem that you need to deliver a solution to. All right, so by the end of the day, it's going to be about 2 or 3 solutions that you just need to come up with, okay, to solve a particular problem. You don't build a model to solve thousands of problems. You build a model to solve a specific problem. Okay, so in a particular company, there can be like 50 different models that has been built to solve 50 different cases. Okay, each model is having its specific goal, right? In a banking sector, for instance, one model will be predicting whether a customer will come for a loan or not. Another model will be predicting whether the customer will pay the loan back or not. Another model will be predicting whether a certain transaction in the bank is fraud or is genuine. Okay, so there will be different models that are performing different tasks, right? But each of them has their own specific goal that they want to solve. So in data science, you don't build a model to solve general problems. You build a model to solve specific problems. Okay, so that's when your inferences will come, just specifically solving a particular problem. Now, for the analytics part, as I said, most of the things are going to be done by the data analyst or by the business analyst, right? And the data, most of the time, if you're in a good company, data engineers will get the data and then from different sources and then put it in a particular repository for you to be able to get it. Now, if you're in a company that they don't have these different kind of roles like data analyst or business analyst or data engineers, then you as a data scientist are going to do all those kind of work. Okay, you get the data, you analyze it, you clean it, you build a model, you deploy it, draw inferences from it, give you recommendation and everything. Okay, but if you're in a company that are having their roles well defined, then you work specifically in the machine learning and the AI part to drive more sophisticated results. Okay, and this is where the work is, right? The area where you need to apply these algorithms, because before you can even build a model, you need to make sure that the data is clean, the data is the right data, the data is coming from the right source and all that. You need to do all those things. If the data is not right, you need to go back to the data engineers, and if you are the one doing it, you need to go back to the source and then get a new data. If you need more data, you get more data to add to the one that you have. Okay, so a lot of work goes on here. A lot of work goes on in this stage. At this stage, okay, a lot of work goes on at this stage, and this is when you spend most of your time as a data scientist. All right, this is where you spend most of your time as a data scientist. Going forward, I'm going to give you the life cycle of a data science project, right, so that you get to know how things are done. All right. Now, if you're in a company and then you have a problem statement, and then you need to know whether this problem statement requires a data science skill or it's just going to be analytical skills or it requires some other skills. So then there are some key questions that you can ask to make sure that the problem statement is actually a data science problem. Okay, so the first one that you need to ask is, do we need to make a decision right now? Okay, so if the problem statement is there, the first question that you need to ask is that, do we need to do anything on this problem statement to make a decision as we speak, right? If your answer is yes, then this is going to require a descriptive and statistical inference. Okay, this one is not a data science problem. Okay, it's not a data science problem. For instance, if you have a data set that you need to analyze and then give an insight about who has paid the loan and then who has not paid the bank loan, that one is just a descriptive and statistical analysis and inferences that you need to do, analyze the data and then draw insights from it. It doesn't require any machine learning skills or deep learning or any sophisticated skills. Okay, but if your answer is no, that is, if you do not need to make the decision right now, then you need to ask, do we need to make the decision in the future? Right? Do we need to do something on this problem statement or this data set and then make a decision in the future, right? In some days to come, in some months to come, do we need to make a decision based on what we are going to do right now? If your answer is yes, and even if you need to even make more decisions and not even just one decision, right? Then you are talking about machine learning skills or AI skills over here, right? And that's when the data scientist will come in. Okay, that's when the data scientists will come in to apply their sophisticated skills on the data or the problem statement that you have to make sure that they can make good predictions in the future or good recommendations in the future. Okay, for instance, if you're working in Netflix and then there's a data, right, about the preferences of children, right, and you need to make sure that you're going to build a recommendation system and then make recommendations in the future for children to get their choice of movies on Netflix. In that case, you're going to need more sophisticated skills, right? More recommendation algorithms to implement for future children, right? You have data for present children, but you need to make recommendation for anyone who will come on Netflix tomorrow, the day after, or the next year, all the years ahead, right? That's what you're going to build. In that case, you need more sophisticated machine learning algorithms to do that, and that's when the data science skills comes in. Okay, if it's just analytical things, then the data analyst can take care of it, right? But if you have, most of the time, data scientists will have the background of data analyst, right? They will have all the skills that data analysts have, okay? So they can even do all those kind of things. And most of the time, if you are in a company that is not well established, they will not hire data analysts and hire data scientists. If they hire you as a data scientist, they expect you to know all that the data analyst know, right? And sometimes they don't even know what work a data analyst is supposed to do and what work the data scientist is supposed to do. So it's left to you and the other colleagues in the company to divide the work. But if you are the only data guy in the company, then you have to do all that. Okay, so in summary, if you have a data or problem statement, you need to make a decision right now, then it's just going to require just simple analytical skills to do that, right? But if you need to make the decision in the future, then you're going to need more sophisticated skills, and that requires a data science skill. All right. Now, one area that we need to understand is the confusion that is out there, right? That is, what is the difference between data analytics, data science, artificial intelligence, machine learning, and deep learning. Okay. So let's get an intuitive understanding of that even before we get started with anything else, okay? Now, in data science, we have data analytics is part of data science. Big data is also part of data science, right? Big data is nothing but working in data science, that requires more data, right? Some fields have more data than other fields, right? For instance, telecommunication might have more data than, say, education field, right? Because even if the person is not educated, they still own a phone. And if the person is even educated, they might own maybe 2 or 3 phones. And the kind of data that you generate per day is more than the kind of data that the educational sector can generate. Okay, so some fields generate more data than other fields, right? So if you are saying big data, it's just working in a particular domain that generates more data, right? And data analytics is working on data, drawing insights from it, doing a lot of visualizations and making recommendations to business leaders, right? Without applying those machine learning and deep learning, so all those sophisticated skills. Okay, and most of the time, if you're in the data science domain, you're still going to do all those kind of things, right? So they are all part of data science, right? Data analytics and big data. Now, data science is the mother of all. Okay, mother of the data analytics and big data and everything else. Inside data science, we have artificial intelligence, right? That is AI. Artificial intelligence is actually what makes data science field more appreciating and making it growing from time to time, and making it more prominent in the industry. Okay, making it more prominent in the industry. It's all because of artificial intelligence, right? Inside artificial intelligence, we have machine learning. Okay, inside artificial intelligence, we have machine learning. So first we have data science being the mother of all, then we have artificial intelligence. Inside artificial intelligence, we have machine learning. Okay, so machine learning is just a subset of artificial intelligence. Now, inside machine learning itself, we also have deep learning, right? We also have deep learning. Deep learning is also a subset of machine learning, and it's a subset of artificial intelligence. Okay, inside the deep learning itself, we also have some other specializations in there, right? We have computer vision, then we have natural language processing. Okay, so as I said, you can be a data scientist, but ideally you will go these areas. Either you're going to work as a computer vision specialist or natural language processing practitioner. Okay, computer vision is when you work on images and videos, right? And then natural language processing is when you work on text and then audio. Okay, so at the end of the day, you're going to work either on images and video or text and audio. Okay, so these are not the ultimate areas that we have. We still have some specializations in these fields as well, right? We still have some as you go to the industry, you're going to realize some specified areas that you still want to specialize over there, right? Because inside computer vision there will be some people who are working on image augmentation, image scaling, and others, right? Image optimization. There are people who are specifically working on those areas, right? Someone might be specifically working on image augmentation for years, right, without doing anything else. Okay, if you take natural language processing, for instance, there will be someone who will be working on audio throughout, right? And even audio, maybe audio optimization, right? Audio clarity and something like that. The person will be working only on that, and someone else will be working on other part of the audio. Or if it's text, someone will be working on structured text, someone will be working on unstructured text, and optimizing those tests and stuff like that. Okay, so if you even go into details, there are people who are specializing in either of these, right? So if you want to become a data scientist, you should develop an interest for one of these areas, right? Initially, people learn both of these, right? Get an overview or a general understanding of these fields. So if you go to the industry and then maybe your first job, you start working on, say, computer vision area, right? Then they start specializing in that area and become very good at that area. Okay, or if your first job you start working on, say, text and audio, or natural language processing in particular, in general, then they go on as years come by, they just specialize in that area and then become good at that area. Okay, so most of the time that's what goes on in the industry. You're going to start as a data scientist, right? But ideally you'll be working in one of these areas. Okay, all right. Now let's see some of the industries and areas where data science is being applied. All right. Now, as you might have witnessed or as you might have experienced or known, data science is applied in every single field, right? Data science itself is not an independent domain, right? It's not an independent domain that you said, okay, this is say medical field, right? Data science, or this is medical field, or this is an e-commerce field, or this is banking field, right? Data science, it's not a particular domain like that, right? It's not like telecommunication that you say, okay, this is a telecommunication field, or this is a medical field, or something like that. Data science is not like that. It is just a catalyst, right, that you can apply in any other field, right? In any other field. That's what makes them more, that's what gives them more, opportunity and upper hand on any other domain, because they can work in any other domain as far as data is concerned, right? There's no domain that do not generate data or does not require the skills of data scientists. Okay, that's why most of the job openings are still data scientists, and they pay them huge. Okay, and in the US it has been the number one since 2008. It has continuously been the number one job. Both in pay and in lucrativeness of the job. Okay, data science has been the most in demand job, right? They actually describe it as the sexier job of the 21st century. Okay. So as you can see over here, in agriculture, in health, in banking, in government, insurance, energy, retail, and e-commerce, communications, everywhere, right? Everywhere in this world, everywhere every industry that you can think of, data science is being applied over there, right? And there are a lot of use cases that makes data science more prominent in the industry, right? For instance, anomaly detection in the banking sector, money laundering, right, in the banking sector, segmentation in the e-commerce sector, right? Which customers are buying this and what should we recommend to them if they buy this, right? All those kind of things, right? Upsell and downsell, right? You bought this, you can also add this, right? Those kind of recommendations that they do. Oh, you love this movie, you can also watch this movie. In the supply chain, customer transaction behavior, everything that you can think of, right? Everything that you can think of in this world, data science is being applied over there, right? So if you want to become a data scientist, getting a job or industry where you work should be the less problem that you should worry about, right? That should be the less thing that you should worry about. What you should worry about is developing your skills very well. Okay, once you have the skill, there's no the sky is just the beginning, right? The sky is just the beginning. All right, and even what makes it more fascinating is that if you learn one skill in one area, you can even apply it in another area, right? You can still apply that skill in another area. For instance, if you're in a banking sector and then you're a data scientist there and your work is to detect anomalies, right? That is whether the transactions that are going on are fake or they are I mean, they are normal transactions, right? These kind of situations or these kind of scenarios can also be applied in the telecommunication sector, right? Whether a particular communication is normal or it's going to bring some kind of a cyber threat to the society. Okay, so all these things are, I mean, intertwined, right? You can learn one skill in one domain and then bring it to another domain and even more lucrative. Okay. Now, let me show you some of the examples of the things that data science is being used in the various industries. All right. Now, these practical applications of data science and machine learning are all over us, and I'm sure you have witnessed a lot of these revolutions all over. Now, if you're on Netflix, you realize that they have a best recommendation system. I mean, Netflix, Amazon, they are one of the people that have the best recommendation systems in the world, right? Now, if you have a Netflix account, you realize that if you watch one movie, right, it will start recommending similar movies to you. Okay, if you watch a particular movie, they will start to recommend similar movies to you. Now, if you see this one here, right, it's saying that now because you added To Kill a Mockingbird, that's one movie, right, to your list. Because you added that list, now they are recommending similar movies of that to you. Okay, now how do they actually even figure out? Because there won't be a person sitting there to see that, okay, this person has added this particular movie, so we should recommend similar ones to them, right? You will not be there to see it. Yet the algorithm itself will learn your behavior and then start to recommend things that you like based on the activities that you're performing on the platform, right? Now, if you see down here, because you watched a particular movie, now they are recommending similar movies to you, right? They are recommending similar movies to you. All these are behavioral learning recommendations, right? They have learned your behavior. They know, I mean, the algorithm knows the things that you like and how you operate the platform and where you click and what you click and all those stuff, right? Put all of them together and then start recommending something for you, right? These are applications of machine learning and data science. Okay, these are data scientists or machine learning engineers doing this, right? Doing this on the background, and these are models that they have built previously and is now working for you, right? That's why I say that if your problem statement is for you to do something which will work in the future, then you are talking about data science and machine learning. Okay, so they studied the behavior of some people in the past, then they built the model. Now the model is now predicting something for you here, right? Because these are things that they did some years ago, right? Some 2 or 3 years ago, and it's now working for you if you purchase a subscription on Netflix right now to start making the recommendation for you. But that recommendation model did not, I mean, they won't build it right there for you. It has already been built based on behavior of some people in the past, right? And they are now making this recommendation in the future. All right. So these are, I mean, applications of data science. Now, if you go to Amazon and you want to buy something, right? As soon as you click on one item, they will start to recommend similar items to you, right? You will not click on a book and they will recommend, food items to you. No. It won't work that way. If you click on book, they will recommend similar books, right? Even the particular genre of the book that you have clicked on will be studied, and then similar books in that same genre will be recommended to you, right? You will not click a comedy book and then they will go and recommend science fiction book for you. No, right? It doesn't work that way. Or you click on a fiction book and then they will recommend non-fiction book for you. They will not do that, right? The algorithm will learn very well and then be able to accurately or near accurate recommendation. Okay, we'll be able to do near accurate recommendation. I won't say it's 100%. Sometimes it can recommend something that you wouldn't like, but you can actually say that most of the time, right? Around 80% of the time, it's able to do a correct or near accurate recommendation for you. Okay, and all these are applications of data science and then machine learning. So if you see here, I clicked on the Learn Startup, right? That is a book that I wanted to buy, and then they are recommending 0 to 1 for me, right? And then other startup books over here for me, right? These are startup related books, right? They're all related to startup, how to start a business, how to start a company, and all that, right? All these are books that are related to that. You see that because I clicked on one book that is associated with that, they use the keywords in the book and other behaviors of you, and then they are making these kind of recommendations for you. Okay, now if you go to Facebook, you see that they will be recommending for you people you may know, right? So all these are recommendations or recommendation systems that they have used data science skills or machine learning skills to build, and it's actually working perfectly for you. Without this, all these things, right, all these things that generate huge revenue for these companies wouldn't be possible, right? So imagine if you are the ones helping them to generate these huge revenues, why won't they pay you huge, right? That's why data scientists are highly, demanded, and they pay them huge, right? Now, if you're on YouTube, this one should be familiar to you, right? You click on one music or one video, and then they will start recommending similar ones for you. For instance, this one, I click on a TEDx video, right? TEDx video. Now you can see all the movies that all the videos that are here are TEDx, right? TEDx videos. All of them are TEDx videos, right? I will not, click on TEDx video, and then they will start recommending, cruise or country music to me. They will not do that, right? It doesn't actually make sense. What you click on, the algorithm will start thinking that that's what you like. Okay, and most of the time is the case, right? What we click on is what we like, and it will recommend similar ones for you, and that's what dedicates your attention to spend more time on the platform. And these are the works of data scientists and machine learning engineers. Okay, and that's how they drive huge revenue for the companies. Now, if you think about it, right, Tesla is a game changer, right? Tesla is a game changer. That is self-driving cars. In the self-driving cars domain, Tesla is a game changer over there, right? How they build the models to actually get to detect the items around the car without someone being manually operating the cars. Will be able to go wherever you set it to go. Be able to detect all the lanes on the road, and all the incoming cars and pedestrians and all the signs and symbols, right? How it is actually able to accurately detect all these symbols, and even branch where it's supposed to branch, and all those kind of things, right? It's incredible. It's incredible, and all these are computer vision skills, right? All these are done using computer vision skills, right? As I said, it's either you're going to work on images and videos, or you're going to work on text and audio, right? So the ones that I was showing you earlier on, things like these recommendations that are being done, these are results of test, right? Test and audio, right? These are results of test and audio, right, that they use to make these recommendations. But when it comes to things like what Tesla is doing is audio, it's video and images, right? That is computer vision, right? So what I was showing earlier on is skills of natural language processing. Okay, these are skills of natural language processing that you use to build these recommendation systems to recommend one item to the other, right? In this course, you're going to see one project like that, where we will build something similar to what Netflix has done, where we are going to see a recommendation. We're going to build our own recommendation system to recommend movies on Netflix, right? And then we also do some computer vision projects as well, right? So these are very incredible applications of data science and machine learning that you can actually find out there. And I'm sure you've also witnessed a lot of these examples in different areas in your industry or in your community. And if you think about it, it's all reverse. It's all reverse in if you think about it, post detection, right? Is most entertainment industries apply post detection, especially in the boxing industry, right? They use post detection, and it's also image and video, right? That is computer vision skills over there, right? And then in the medical image analysis, right? That is computer vision over there. Fraud detection, that is natural language processing over there. Car auto parts, computer vision and stuff like that. It's all over us, right? These are just a few examples that I've put over here, but you can think of many of them in your specific areas, or in your environment, right? It's all over us. Applications of data science and machine learning is everywhere nowadays in the world. All right. Now let's see the life cycle of a data science project, right? If you're working on a data science project, let's see how the life cycle of it is like. Okay, so in any domain or in any field, right? When you have a data science project, this is the entire life cycle, right? First, there will be a problem statement which you need to sit down and understand the problem statement, right? The first thing is to get a clarity of the problem statement. If you don't understand the problem statement, your solutions are null and void, right? Whatever you come up with, doesn't matter the skills that you're going to apply, right? Whatever sophisticated skill you're going to apply is still going to amount to nothing. So the first thing is to first understand the problem that you're working on, right? Don't first start to think of the which algorithm I'll use or which skills I'm supposed to apply. No, you should not think of that, right? What you need to think of is what the problem statement is asking for, and is it even asking the right thing, right? Is it asking the right question, or is this something else that you need to understand first before you even tackle the problem statement? What is the stakeholders asking of you, right? That's the first thing that you need to sit down and then understand. Now, once you understand the problem statement, then you start by collecting data that relates to the problem statement. Now, if you collect the data, right, that is, you first look for where the data is residing, where are you going to get the data from, right, and is the data relevant or not, right? Because most of the time, if your data is irrelevant, it's also going to result in irrelevant results, right? Garbage in, garbage out. Now, once you have the data, you need to spend most of your time exploring the data, cleaning the data, preparing, doing a lot of feature engineering and a lot of exploratory data analysis on the data to make sure that the data is in the right form for building machine learning model. Okay, that is if machine learning model is required, right? Some of the time you wouldn't require to build a machine learning model, right, if you understand your problem statement well. Okay, so you need to explore the data, and I should actually emphasize over here that 80% of your time you're going to spend it over here exploring the data, cleaning the data, doing a lot of feature engineering, and a lot of featureization, normalization, and others over here, right? We're going to see all of that in this course. We're going to learn all those skills, so you don't need to worry about that. We're going to go through all of that step by step. Right now, once you have explored the data and then you know that the data is the right one, now you think of which algorithm to use, right? Which algorithm to use to build the model, okay, to build the machine learning model. Now, once you build the model, then you use the model to answer the question that it was earlier asked, right? So if your model is able to answer the question, then your entire life cycle is over. If it's not able to answer the question, you have to start again from here. And then maybe you did not understand the question well, as I said, right? Now, imagine if you did not understand the question well and you build something useless, then you have to come back and start again, right? That is a whole lot of work to do, right? But if you spend a lot of time over here to understand the problem statement or the question before you, right? Go to which stakeholder to go to, connect to whosoever to connect with, then you can now proceed, right? It's a life cycle. Most of the time you can do everything right, but when you get here, things might, you might get some surprises that you are not expecting, and you need to come back over here and start again. Okay, despite the salary, there's a lot of work to do as well, right? So you need to also prepare your mind for that. Okay, once this part is done, you just keep on iterating to achieve the goal that you want. So this is the entire life cycle of data science project. Okay, this is the entire life cycle of a data science project. All right, now we're going to talk about you in the part 2. Right, so now we are going to focus on you, that you want to become a data scientist, right? So we want to focus on you and then discuss what data scientist is and the various diverse careers that you can make in this field. Okay, the salaries that you're supposed to expect and all those things. All right, so the first thing that we going to understand here is who is a data scientist. Okay, if you want to become a data scientist, you need to know whom you want to become. Okay, now data scientist is actually defined by the company that you're going to work, right? That is, the work of a data scientist is actually defined by the company. You can get a title, which is the general title as data scientist, but ideally when you go into the company, there are different roles that you're going to play which varies from one company to the other, right? Unlike if you're a surgeon, you know that if you're in this hospital, you do the same thing. If you're in another hospital, you're still surgeon doing the same thing, right? But if you're a data scientist, it's not like that. In some companies, you'll be performing a role which is similar to a data engineer in another company, right? Or you'll be performing a role which is similar to a machine learning engineer in another company. Or you can just have the title as a data scientist, but you'll be performing the role of a business analyst or data analyst or machine learning engineer or AI engineer or whatever you can think of. Okay, so it actually depends on the company, and even the pioneers of data science that actually coined the word, right, which includes DJ Patel, right? DJ Patel used to be the chief data scientist in White House, and I mean, those days he was in LinkedIn, and that's when he and his colleagues coined the word data scientist, right? And if you look at his definition over here, he's saying that a data scientist is that unique blend of skills. Earlier on, remember when we were talking about the various expertise in data science, we saw the various blends, right, which is mathematics, computer science, software engineering, I mean, domain knowledge and all that, right? So according to him, he's saying that a data scientist is that unique blend of skills, right? That kind of skills you will not have it in any other field. You blend it from different aspects, and I mean, after you blend it, you can use that skill to both unlock the insights of data and tell a fantastic story via the data, right? This is his definition, right? And if you look at the vice president of data at IBM, right, that's Anjul, she's saying that data scientist is a change agent, right? Someone who brings change in the industry, right? A data scientist is part digital trend spotter and part storyteller, stitching various pieces of information together. Now, you find what is trending in the industry, and then you stitch all those pieces of information together, and then you tell a beautiful story about it, right? So it's similar to what DJ Patel was talking about, who the data scientist is. Now let's talk about Hilary Mason, right, who is the founder and CEO of Fast Forward Labs. She is saying that a data scientist is someone who blends math, algorithms, and an understanding of human behavior with the ability to hack systems together to get answers to interesting human questions from data. Now you see how she has also digest this, data scientist role, right? That you blend math, algorithms, and then understanding of human behavior. That is the domain knowledge coming in here, with the ability to hack systems together, right? That is using different tools and platforms to get answers to interesting human questions from data. Right? So you base on the data, and then use the platforms and the tools, right? And then use your understanding, right, together with your understanding in math and algorithms to bring the answers, right? And then your understanding of human behavior, or domain knowledge over there, right? So this is another definition from one expert, which is Hilary Mason. Now if you go to IBM Research Lab, this is how they also defined data scientist, right? That a data scientist represents an evolution from the business or data analyst role. Now, most of the data scientists that you see out there start as a data analyst, right? That's what IBM is saying, that they are evolution from data analyst role, from business or data analyst role, right? So they were once data analysts, and then they evolved or learned more sophisticated skills and became data scientists, right? The formal training is similar. That is the training that they got in becoming data analyst or business analyst or business professionals, and the training that they are getting to become data scientists are similar, right? That is what they are saying here. The formal training is similar, with a solid foundation, typically in computer science and applications. Now you see that the blend is also coming here. Computer science and applications, modeling, that is machine learning, statistics, analytics, and math. Now you see that all of them are having this common kind of blend over there, right? You blend all those skills, and then you add your own intuition and sophistications to draw insights from the data, right? So this is, a classical definition of data scientist, right? Ideally, what you're going to do in the company depends on the company, right? You can apply for a role, and then the role requires you to work on tests, right? In that case, you're working basically as a natural language process practitioner, right? Or you apply for a role, and the role requires you to work on image or videos, right? And basically, you're working as a computer vision specialist, okay? Or maybe you are working in general, right? If you don't have specified roles in the company, you'll be doing everything from data engineering, and everything from data engineering to machine learning to everything in the company, right? So this is classically the definition of data scientist, right? But it really depends on the company that you're going to work on and the role that they will specify for you, and how advanced the company is, right? Whether you're going to be working specifically in a particular area, or on being the Jack Bauer of the whole company, right? But most people start with with a general knowledge of each, general knowledge of a bit of each area, and then when they get to the company, they get time to specialize on a particular area. Okay. Now let me introduce you to some of the specializations that you can master as time goes on. Some of the areas that you can specialize, or some of the career opportunities in this field. All right. So you can become a data science manager, right? That is after you have worked for some couple of years, right? Before they give you that kind of a role as a data science manager, you might have worked for about 3, 4, 5 years before you can get to that position, right? Or maybe you might have worked in a different domain for some years, and then you learn some data science skills, and then you can transition, or get a promotion to become a data science manager, right? And basically it's just like any other managerial role. You'll be having a data science team under you that you manage to make sure that the company derive the best out of their data, right? And then as I said, as you witness in the IBM definition, most of the people start as a data analyst and then they proceed to become data scientists, right? Regardless of that, some also start with straight away becoming a data scientist, right? It doesn't necessarily mean that go and start as a data analyst, right? If the role is there and you have learned your data science skills correctly, you can straight away start as a data scientist, right? And that is a good way to even do it. Okay, it's not that you should go and start as a data analyst. And then you can also become a machine learning engineer, right? Becoming a machine learning engineer means that you actually need to master either one of the areas, that is computer vision or natural language processing, or master both of them. Okay. And then you can also become a data engineer, right? You can also become a data engineer that is working mainly on the ETL part, that is extracting the data and transforming the data and extracting meaning out of it, and putting in a certain repository for further analysis or further use. Okay. Then you can also become a big data engineer, right? You can also become a big data engineer. All these are different roles that a company can give you, right? They can give you the title as a data scientist or either of these roles, right? And as I said, as time goes on, you can specialize in either natural language processing, becoming a natural language processing engineer, or you can become a computer vision engineer. All right. So I'll give you this slide so that you can just read whatever is here. But computer vision, as I said, working on images and videos. Natural language, working on audio and then text. All right. And in this course, you're going to see, you're going to get an overview of all these so that you become familiar with them, right? It won't become new to you when you get to the industry. All right. And as I said, there are a couple of roles that you can the company can give you, right? They can say that you are AI engineer or analytics manager, or data architect, research analyst, business analyst, or business intelligence professional, business analyst, statistician, quality model analyst, among other roles that the company can give you. But basically you are still in the data science ecosystem, right? You are still in the data science ecosystem. So it actually depends on the company, right? But if you want to get that title as a data scientist, then you have to apply for that kind of roles, right? Because there are roles that comes as looking for data scientists. Okay, so if you want that title, you can actually apply for those kind of titles. All right, now you might be thinking that, okay, I'm coming from the art background, I'm not a computer scientist, because if you see the definition that we've gone through, it's a blend of computer science, software engineering, mathematics, and machine learning, and all those stuff, right? So basically that part scares people away, that okay, if I'm not a computer scientist or software engineer, or I'm not a statistician or mathematician, I cannot do these things, right? I cannot go into this field. But ideally, people who have transitioned into this field comes from different backgrounds. Some do not even have a computer science degree or computer science skills at all, right? They start and then they learn the required skills, and then they transition into this field, right? Some comes from the arts background, some come from business background, some come from natural sciences like biology, chemistry, among other fields over there, right? Physics, economics and social science, and computer science, of course, and then statisticians and mathematicians, of course. Okay, so all these different people with all these different backgrounds transition to become data scientists, right? So regardless of your background, you can still become a data scientist. It doesn't. That's why I said data science itself is not a domain. You just have to learn the skills and apply it in a particular domain that you are. Right. So if you're a business professional, you just need the skills of a data scientist to apply it in your business field. If you're an art in any of the arts domain, right, you can just learn data science skills and then apply it over there, right? If you're a biologist, or if you're a chemist, or if you're a medical professional, you just learn the skills of data science and then you apply it over there. Okay, so it's not like you have to leave your domain and then go and become learn something supernatural. No, you are learning data skills to apply it over there, and that makes you the data scientist, right? You're learning the data skills and then apply it over there. Okay. Now let's go to the skills that you need to develop in order to become a data scientist, right? If you want to become a data scientist, this is the ultimate path that I have sat down with the industry experts, and then we have prepared this path for you, right? Any other data scientists out there, you can show them this path, and they will confirm that yes, this is the accurate field. The accurate path that you need to take, right? These are step 1 all the way to step 13, right? That you need to take if you want to become a data scientist, right? These are so the first one here is to get a mentor, right? It's not a must to have, right? It's not by force to have a mentor, but if you have a mentor, things become easier for you, right? You know whom to ask when you get stuck, right? You know whom to run to when you get stuck. If you have any question on your mind, you know whom to ask, right? And that will save you a lot of time and a lot of research, right? It's going to save you someone who will point you to the right resource or right place to go when things become tough for you, right? If you have a mentor, that it makes things easier, right? And in this course, I personally will be your mentor throughout the course till you finish. You just drop your questions at the Q&A session, or you just direct message me whatever is also on your mind or whatever you want. You just drop it over there, and I'll be there to guide you. All right. Then you need to master the essential statistical concept. You cannot skip that, right? As I said earlier on, it's a blend of these very varied skills that we saw earlier on, and statistics is part of it. You cannot skip that part. And in this course, you're going to have a solid background in statistics, right? All the necessary statistics that you need, right? We're going to have it over there. We are not expecting you to become a statistician, right? To use some complex mathematical equations. No, we're not going to do that, right? You don't actually need that in data science. We use the software tools to you just need to know which tool to use and how to use it, and that's it. Okay, no calculation is needed. You just need to know how things work, right? You can understand from the understanding perspective, learn how the calculations work, but when you're on the job field, you don't actually use any of these calculations, because it's already built into the tools that we are going to use, and you're going to see how we are going to do it. Okay, so you don't need to get scared over there, right? You don't need to get scared over there. I'm going to walk you through step by step each part of it, and you get to understand it. The next one here is to master one programming language. Now, if you are getting started, you might be hearing a lot of programming languages out there, especially Python and then R programming. Okay, but as it stands now, Python is having upper hand over any programming language that you can think of, right? Whether it's R, whether it's Go, whether it's Perl, or whatever language that you can think of. Python is the go-to for everyone, right? If you ask any data scientists out there, they will tell you to learn Python. All right, and employers prefer data scientists with Python because most of the tools and most of the algorithms are built using Python libraries and others, right? And that makes it even Now let's come to the most important part. As we are not pretending that the money is not important. The money is what is driving us to become data scientists, right? You can become anything else, but the money is really, really important. I mean, if the passion is there, the money is also a motivating factor. All right. Now, the beginner level, right? This one I'm using the US as a standard over here, right? So in your country, it could be different, right? It could be different as well. But I mean, even if it's different, you're still going to be in the top 80 or top 90%, right? When you get a job as a data scientist, your salary is going to range in that higher level. Okay, in the US, the beginner level is around 92,000. That is those coming from college or that you don't really have any experience. Is your salary per annum is going to be something like $92,000, and then if you have like 3 to 5 experience, it's going to go $100,000 plus dollars, right? And then you can convert it to your local currency and see dollar to your local currency, and then you see how much that is, right? And then if you have like 7 to 15 years of work experience, you can expect like 150 to 250 250,000 US dollars, right? And then you have like 20 years of experience, that is you're going to those data science manager position, right? So then you can expect like 250,000 plus USD. Okay, and then when you get to this management position, you can go to 400 plus to some even, and that is crazy, right? And these figures are not some hypothetical figures that I'm giving, right? I've given you a link here, which is the right source to go, right? So let me just open this link for you to see. All right, if you go to this link over here, right, this is coming from the let me open and then I'll show you. This is coming from the US Bureau of Labor Statistics. It's not an ordinary link, right? This is a right source that if you want any statistical information, if you want any data valid one, right? So that's where you need to come, right? This is valid source, authentic government official website, right? So every data here is true and it's accurate. Okay, now if you see it over here, right, you see the mean. There are a lot of them over here that you can see, right? On average per hour, data scientists collect like $50, right? And there's the annual wage, right? That is around 103,930 USD. You can see that, right? This is coming from the government website, so it's not some hypothetical figures that I put over there. If you see the percentile, right, the percentile you can see over here, even the lowest over there is around 52,950. That's those in the 10%, right? And those in the 90th percentile, you can see around 165,230. Okay, this is crazy. It's crazy, right? Data science is a crazy field to be when it comes to salary, right? You can even check the industries and how much they pay, right? This is the hourly wage, this is the annual, right? You can see that they are above 100, right? They all are above 100,000 US dollars, right? It's a crazy field to be, right? It's a way crazy field to be. And when it comes to salary, you don't need to worry about it. All you need to worry about is the skills that you're going to develop and develop it very well, right? That's what we mean to give you in this course, right? As you can see, there's none of them which is even below 100 over here, and this is coming from the US government website. It's not any hypothetical website that you can say that I'm just saying it. I wanted you to have the right information, the right data, right? And that's why I searched for this one. This US Bureau, right? So you can just search on the slides. You can just click on this link and then you go there and then you see it for yourself. All right. So that is it for you. This overview of data science, and I hope you have a better understanding of the various career opportunities, the salary, and the various roles, the industries, and everything. Okay, now in the next session, we're going to start to learn the real things in order to become a data scientist, right? We're going to start to learn that. All right, so see you in the next tutorial. Hello and welcome to the SQL for Data Science and Machine Learning. I'm glad for us to walk through this lesson, and I'm very much positive you're going to enjoy this class. SQL is one of the critical skills that you're supposed to develop if you want to become a data scientist or data analyst or machine learning engineer or AI engineer. In each company that you go, SQL is going to be one of the critical skills that you're going to need. And in fact, most of the data that you're going to work with are going to reside in either a database or in some kind of a repository that you need SQL skills to extract the data. All right, so in this lesson and throughout to the end of the SQL class, we're going to learn the critical skills and the most crucial skills that you're going to need when it comes to the field of data science and machine learning, or AI in general. If you go to the internet, especially most of the job postings on Amazon or Google or Facebook or any other company that they post their job, if you look through the job requirement, you'll find out that they require SQL skills in addition to Python skills. All right, so if you have these skills, it's actually a plus to your career and you're going to be very valuable in your team. Right, and in this course, you're going to gain that skills and be confident when you're part of any team as a data scientist or machine learning engineer or data engineer or AI professional. Alright, so let's get started. Now, before we get understanding of what SQL is and start using it to extract data or perform queries in database, let's first understand what a database is. So a database is the first thing that you need to get to understand before you even move on to learn what SQL is and start performing some queries. Alright, so let's get started. When we talk about database, we are talking about a collection of data. Alright, we are talking about a collection of data which is stored, right, in a format that can easily be accessed. All right, these are keywords that I am underlying here, right? It's a collection of data, right? A collection of data which is stored, okay, in a format that can easily be accessed. All right, so data comes in different formats, data comes in different forms, and if you want to be able to access your data, you need to put it in a format that you can easily access. For instance, let's say you are in a company, and then your boss comes and then asks you, last year, how many people purchased product A, and in which city did they purchase it? That's not the time to make guesses or think about some things in your head and try to remember something. That's not the time. That is the time to provide a report. Okay, when they ask such questions, they want you to submit a report. And in that case, you need to go to a place where you can find data about those products that the purchases happened in the past, and then generate a report accordingly and present it to your supervisor. All right. So in order to get the data organized, for instance, some data can come in the form of an image, some data can come in the form of a video, some data can come in the form of an audio or a text, right? And in order to organize all those data and then to be able to retrieve them when you need them at a very short time and in a very efficient way, you need what is called a database. Okay, and that is why this one becomes most critical when it comes to retrieving data. All right. So let's consider this scenario. You cannot have the database on its own, right? You need information on product A, product B, on customer A, customer B, right? All those kind of data that you have. You need a kind of system that will organize it. Okay, products are in this area, customers are in this area, prices are in this area, successful transactions are in this area, transactions that were not successful in this area. So you need kind of a system that will organize all that. And that is when what is called database management system comes in. Okay, in short, we call it DBS. So in the industry, you just be hearing DBS instead of database management system, right? Most of the data scientists would like to shorten things, so you only be hearing DBMs, but it's database management system. That is kind of a system that helps you organize your data. All right, so this is the scenario. We have the database. Okay, we have the database which contains the data that you want, and then the database management system, or the DBMS, will help you organize that data. Now, let's say you come and then you want to retrieve data from the database, right, where your data reside, right? Data about your customers, their inventory, or the transactions, and all those information, right? You want to retrieve something. Now, what you do is that you send some commands to the database management system, and then the system looks into the database. If it finds the information that matches the request that you sent, then it's going to send that information back to you. Okay, so this is the entire scenario of a database management system. Okay, this is the entire scenario of a database management system. You have the data residing in the database. You send commands to the database management system. The system looks into the database that the data is residing and then retrieve that kind of information for you. All right, so let's say you go to Google and then you start searching for something, maybe say data science or something like that, right? Now, as soon as you press enter, right, now you see that it's searching for data science information, right? It means that you have sent command to Google's database, and it's retrieving that kind of information for you, right? So Google Database will have a lot of different kind of data over there, but the particular data or the particular instruction that you send over there, the management system is going to look into it and bring out that particular information for you. Okay, so if I search for artificial intelligence, that that query is going to go into the database and then retrieve that information. And that is the power of the management system, right? It's managing whatever is here so that the information will not overlap. All right, so this is the entire scenario of a database management system, or DBMS. All right, now we have two types of DBMS, or database management system. We have the relational database management system, and then we have the non-relational database management system, which is simply called NoSQL. Now, in 90% of the time, you're going to work on what is called relational database management system. Okay, in 90% of the time, as a data scientist or machine learning engineer or data analyst, you're going to work on what is called relational database management system. Okay, in relational database management system, we have tables and then we have relationships that exist among the tables. We are going to see that in the upcoming lectures, right? In the non-relational database system, we don't have relationships between those databases, right? That's as the name suggests. This it's a non-relational. We don't have relationship between the database, but in relational database we have relationship between the various database, which we will see in the upcoming slide. Now, in relational database, we have, as I said, we have a relationship between the tables, right? So let's say we have one table which is customer table, we have another table which is order table, and then we have another table which is product table. Now, in relational database, there should be some kind of a relationship, right, among these tables, right? Maybe customer, in customer table you can find something like customer ID, which if you go to the order table, there will be a customer ID there, which indicates the kind of order that particular customer has ordered. And if you go to the particular product table, you will see the kind of product that customer has ordered. So that customer ID is going to be the relationship among these three tables. Okay, so that's why the name is Relational Database Management System, right? RDBMS, right? At first we learned DBMS, right? Which I said that we have two types of it. We have the relational, right? Relational database management system, and then we have the one which is non-relational. Okay, so instead of just DBMS, you will see RDBMS, which is Relational Database Management. So this is some kind of example over here, right? So let's say we have the students table, then we have the activities table. Now on the student table we have the ID, right? That is the particular activity that the student is involved in. We have the ID for that particular activity, right? So if you want to see the activity that the particular student is involved in, so if you pick, for instance, the first one, John Smith, right? The activity that the person is involved in is indicated as, right, 084. So if you go to the activities table and you search for 084, you see that the student's activity is swimming, right? And then you can retrieve the activity alongside maybe the cost, right? So in the database you will see these different kind of tables, but the relationship between students table and activities table is the ID, right? Is the ID column that you see over there, right? So that's why we say that we have a relationship that exists among the tables in relational database management system. Okay, so I hope you get an understanding over here. All right, now there are several kinds of RDBMS out there, right? There's database systems, management systems out there. We have MySQL, we have SQLite there, we have Microsoft SQL Server, we have Oracle database, right? So all these are different databases, and although they are coming from different providers, they are all the same, right? They all do the same job, right? They all do the same job. Sometimes you find some slight difference in their syntax, the way you query the data, but the idea is the same. If you know one of them, you can just do it for all of them, right? In this case, in this course, we're going to use the most popular one, which is MySQL, right? MySQL is more general across all these databases. If you know MySQL, you can do it for all of them, right? The syntax is general for all of these, so that's what we will use in this particular course, right? Another one which is also general over here is SQLite, right? If you can learn it through SQLite 2, you can also use it throughout, right? We're going to use MySQL, but you are free to use any of these, right? Any of these database management systems to follow along, right? All right. Now, before we move on to do anything, there are some things that we need to understand, right? There are some things that we need to really understand, which are more critical when it comes to, which is going to be, I mean, kind of language that we're going to speak over and over again, right? We're going to be talking about queries over and over again. So right from the onset, I want us to understand what query is, so that when we move on later on and we are doing anything, it will not become something new to you. Okay. When you mention query, you should be able to understand. So if you remember earlier on, right, we say that if you have database, right, where you have some data inside the database, and then you send some commands or some instructions to the database management system to extract that that kind of instruction or whatever you want. Okay. Now, sending that instruction to the management system to retrieve the data for you is what is referred to as query. Okay, it's what is referred to as query. Okay, that is the keyword that we use. So a query is a request for data or information from a database table or combination of tables. Okay, so you can get, as I said, in the database we have different tables in there, which there's some kind of relationships among them that you can retrieve information from. Okay, so you can retrieve the information from just one table, right? For instance, maybe you just want the student and their ID. You can just retrieve that. Or maybe you want the student name, the ID, and also the activity that they want, or the course. Right? In that case, you need to retrieve the information from different tables. Okay, so if you are sending that kind of instruction to get the data that you want, we refer to that as query. Okay, so let's get that from right from the onset, right? So the example that earlier on I showed you, right? If you go to Google and then you type in something, right, you are making a query. Right, you are querying the Google database, right, to give you back some kind of a data or some kind of information. So let's say you have a database and then your manager comes and then your manager asks you, tell me how many books there are on data science, right? Your manager wants to know how many books are there in the bookshelf or in the shop. That's for data science, okay? So that if there are less books, maybe you can your manager can import more or put more in stock, right? Or maybe your manager say how many Michael Jackson's albums were produced before 1998. So you have your database. You need to go in there and then fish out how many albums were produced before 1998. Okay, it's not just a simple query. Remember, there are conditions over here. There could be albums that were produced before 1998 or after 1998, right? Or there could be just a single track. So you need to, know how to query the data, right? Besides, you're not inside the database yourself. You're just sending commands. So if you don't send the right command, you'll not get the right data back. All right, so that's basically what a query is. All right. Now, how do we send this kind of information? Okay, you might be asking, then how do I send the information to the management system to retrieve the data for me? Okay, that would be a question that should be on your mind by now, right? Now, that is when what is called SQL comes in, right? We use what is called SQL. Okay, we use what is called SQL. So let's understand what SQL is. Now, the full meaning of SQL is structured query language. Okay, structured query language. As I said, the data in the database itself, it can be in a different format, right? It could be image, it could be audio, it could be text or something like that, right? And they might not be organized in a way that you want to retrieve, right? You need to send instruction in a format that will help you get the particular information that you want. Okay, you need some structure. Okay, you need some structure in retrieving the data, and that's what you need, something which is structured. So that's when we use structured, right, query language, right? That's what I'm saying. If you want to get information or retrieve the information from your data, you are querying the data, right? And to query the data, you need something which is structured. Okay, to query the data, programming language. And we have different programming language. We have Python, we have Java, we have C++, C++, and JavaScript, and all those HTML, CSS, and all those languages, right? This is another language, right? SQL is another language. And this one we use it specifically for databases, for querying databases. So if you see the name, structured query language, to query the database in a structured way. Okay, it helps us to query the data in a more structured way. All right. Okay, so now that we know database, we know how database is organized, we know database management system, we know relational database management system, and then we know SQL, which is structured query language, a tool that we use to query the data or retrieve the data from the database. Let's see how SQL syntax is. So this is how you're going to write it when it comes to working with SQL, right? This is how it's going to look like, right? You're going to write a code like this to get the information. Okay, now here we are going to go through this step by step to start writing it from scratch, but I just want to show you how SQL syntax looks like, right? Or how SQL programming looks like. Okay, so here you want to get something from the product table. The particular product that you want is food, and you want the food alongside their prices, but you want the prices to be ordered. So you see that we have select star from product where category equals food, and then order by price. So it's just a plain language, plain English language over here. There's nothing difficult about SQL. About SQL programming. Okay, there's nothing difficult about it. It's just a plain English language. Select star from a product where category equals food, order by price. You see, it's just a simple English like that. And we're going to walk through step by step, or what star means, what we use select for, and everything. We're going to walk through. Okay, all right. All right, so now let's start with the installation process, right? We're going to see how we're going to install SQL both on Mac and also on Windows. All right, so depending on the system that you're using, you can download it respectively. All right, so I've given you the link here already. I mean, you don't need to really search, but I encourage you to search on your own and then download and install. But I've given you the link here that you need to download. All right. So we are going to need two things over here, right? The download process, we're going to need to download two things, right? So let's get that one clear from the onset. We're going to need what is called MySQL community server. We're going to need what is called MySQL workbench. We're going to need these two things. Okay, the first one, which is MySQL community server, is going to be the database where we're going to connect and then extract the data from, right? It's going to be the management system which is going to help us retrieve the data. And then the workbench is just going to be the interface, right? It's just going to be the interface where we're going to write our query or give the instructions to go into the MySQL database MySQL system, community server, which is going to be the system, right? Let me repeat that. MySQL community server is going to act as our management system. Okay, and then the workbench here is going to be like the interface where we write our query or give the instruction to go into the system to go and retrieve the particular data or information that we want. Okay, so download both of these, right? So first let's do it for Mac. After that we do it for Windows. Okay, so click on this link, then it will open in your browser like this. Now, if you come here, you see that we have MySQL community downloads, right? That's the page that we are going, and then we are going to download MySQL community server. Okay. Now, over here, you see that it's the link here that I've given you is Mac. You see that Mac OS, right? So, and then the OS version that you're using is here. So, depending on the version that you're using, you can select over here. Okay, and if you come down here, you can download the first one over here, right? You can just click on the first one over here, and as soon as you click on it, it is going to take you to this page. All right, now here you can log in or sign up or whatever, but it's not actually important. Just go to here, no thanks, just start my download. Okay, just click on that. Now if I click on that, it will start the download for me, and that's the only thing that you need to do. Right now you can click on save over here, right? Then you see that it's going to download. All right, in this case, since I'm recording it live, I'm just going to pause it over here, but in your case you just have to allow it to download. Okay, you just have to allow it to download, or maybe just let it download. Okay, so that we can just go through, but it's going to take a bit of time because it's 420 megabytes over here, so maybe I'll pause it on the way. All right, but that's basically the process. Okay, that's basically the process over here. Okay, so I'm just going to leave it paused over here, but I mean it's just the same process like the way you download any other software or any other app. You just, after that, you just can just double click it and then install it. Okay, now the second one that you need to download is this, right, which is the Workbench, right? So let me actually close this one. Is the Workbench, and that's the second link, right? So click on that second link over there. Right, click on that second link, and it's going to open to the direct link that you need. Now you see that over here we have MySQL Workbench, right? So if you go to the first one, it was MySQL community downloads, right? That's I mean community server. If you go back here, right, we were doing MySQL community server, but that's what the first one that we downloaded. Now what we are going to an interface that we're going to work with. All right, so now over here I'm doing it for Mac, so you see that the operating system here is Mac. Okay, and then the version is also there. So you just click on download, right? Just the same process, and then you download it. Okay, so I'm just going to cancel it because it's going to take some time as we are doing. I'm recording this live, but I mean the process is just the same thing as I said, like installing any other app, right? And sometimes, right, let me I mean chip in this one too. Sometimes you might download it and then your system will not maybe work with it because of the version of the operating system that you're using. Right now this one is telling you that if you're using Mac OS, right, if you're using Mac OS, the product version that you're downloading is 8.0.27. okay, if you download and it's telling you that it cannot work with your system, you come here, you have to delete that one that you have downloaded, right, and then come here again and then go through these different ones, right? They are old versions over here. You need to downgrade it from 8 to something else, right? Maybe to 6.3 something, right? For the Workbench, normally it is going to work. The Workbench, you don't need to really worry. But for this one, for the MySQL community server, for that one, you can come here. You see that we have the operating system, we have the OS version here, right? So for this one you can just select your version, but if you go to the archives, right, if you go to the archives over here, if you click on that, here you're going to have different versions. You see that here we have the product version. Okay, when you go to the product version, you can downgrade it, right? Maybe downgrade to 8.011, or you can go to maybe 5.7.36. One of them will work for you. Okay, one of them will work for you. So if you download the first one, which is 8.0.27, and it's not working for you, then you need to come and downgrade it, right? It's the same thing for Windows as well. The current version might not work for you if you have not updated your Windows, or if not updated your Mac OS. Okay, normally it's going to work with Mac OS 11, right? So if you have Mac OS 11, it's going to work, but if you have 10 point something, then it's not going to work that way. In that case, you need to come and downgrade it. Okay, so that is it for the installation for installation on Mac. Right. Now for installing MySQL on Windows, you just have to come to these two links that I've given you here, right? We're going to need a MySQL community server, and you're going to need MySQL Workbench. Okay, you're going to need these two things. MySQL community server is going to serve as the management system where you're going to send instructions, and it's going to go into the database and retrieve that kind of information for you, or data for you. Okay, and then the Workbench is going to be the interface where we're going to write our instructions. We are going to write our commands, and then the commands are going to go into the MySQL community server to retrieve the information. Okay, so if you remember earlier when I told you that you have this, you see the scenario that we gave, right? So you're going to send, so the Workbench is going to be where you're going to work, okay? And then this community server is going to be like the management system. You're going to write query, execute it, it's going to go into the database and then bring you that particular info. Okay, so that's how it's going to work. So download these two these two softwares. All right, so if you go to the link that I've given you, you just click on this link, right? So if you click on it, if you're on Mac, it's going to show you Mac here, but if you on Windows, you just click on this, right, and then you select Microsoft Windows. That's it, you are done, right? Once you do that, you see that MySQL installer for Windows is there, and then you can just select the first one over here, right? You can select the first one over here. Now if you do that and it's not working for you, right, sometimes it might be the case that your OS is not updated yet, right? If it's not updated to the current version, if your Windows is not updated to the current version, then the current version of MySQL will not work on it. In that case, you need to go to archive. Okay, you need to come here, go to archive, and then make sure you select Microsoft Windows, right? and then the product version, you need to downgrade it, right, to something else. You can downgrade it to 8.011 instead of 8.27. You can just download the 8.011 or come to maybe 5.7.36. One of these will work for you. So I mean, it just try the first one. If it doesn't work, then you come and downgrade it to what is going to work for you over here. Right? Just download one of these, and then but if the first one is fine for you, then that's okay. So you just click on this one over here. Once you do that, it's just going to start the download over here, right? And that's it, you are done. If you click on save, it's just going to start downloading, right? In this case, I'm just going to pause it, right? Because since I'm recording this live, it's going to take a little bit of time. If you see over here, it's 209 megabytes, right? It's going to take some time, but in your case, you can just have time to just download it. But that's just the process. It's just the same thing like any other downloading any other software. Okay. Now, once that one is done, that is once you have downloaded the Microsoft SQL Community Server, right? Once that one is done, then go back and then download the second one over here, right? The second one over here is the Workbench. Okay, so you click on that one, which is going to be the interface. Okay, now when you click on this, come here, operating system, and then select Microsoft Windows. Okay, now once you do that, that's fine. You see Windows over here, right? If it is Mac OS over here, you're going to see Mac OS. Okay, so if you select Windows, then you're going to see Windows over there, right? You just click on download over here, and that's it, right? It's just going to start the download for you, and then you just save it to wherever you want it to be saved. Okay, so I'm just going to pause it. Right, this is one is a bit smaller, 42 megabyte. The first one is 209 megabyte. Okay, so once you do that, then you are done. Okay, once you do that, then you are done. You can now just install it using the normal installation process, right? Now, if in case you find any difficulties in doing that, right, I've given you some links over here, right? I've given you two separate links over here for on Windows and also on Mac. Okay, on Windows and also on Mac. So these two tutorials should be able to take you through safely in installing them. Okay, so on Windows you can just either the first link or the second link, they are all the same thing. They are all walking you through how to install this. Okay, so just in case you find any difficulties or you still need more information in installing it, you can still watch these tutorials that I've given over here, right? Either on Mac or on Windows, depending on your operating system. Okay, now if you have successfully installed my SQL Community Server and also my SQL Workbench, then you should be able to have it in your system by now. So I'm just going to search it, going to my search. I'm using Mac, so I'm just going to use Spotlight to search it. But if you're on Windows, you can just go to the left bottom over there, the search, and then you can just search. So I'm just going to search my SQL, right? So now you see that I have my SQL Workbench, and then I have my SQL my SQL.pref.pin, right? That's the the system that is going to help us. Okay, which is going to act as the management system. So I'm going to go into the MySQL. I'm just going to open that one. Now, once I do that, you see that it has opened for me, and here you should see that it has actually connected over here, right? So I'm just going to click on that to open it. And then it will ask you of your password, right? The password that you input when you're installing, right? If you had any trouble, you can use the two links that I gave you, and you'll be able to know how to set this password. Okay, so I'm just going to put in my password over here. All right, and that's it. Once I do that, it's going to open my SQL Workbench for me. Okay, then I'm just going to maximize it over here. Right, that's it. Okay, now let me show you in order to know that this thing is connected, right? You can just go here, and then the second MySQL that you see, which is MySQL.pref pane, right? You can just click on that, and then you will see if it is connected, right? Once you click on that, you see that this one I downloaded SQL 8.0.11, right? That's the one that I'm using over here. If it's not connected, you see it over here, and then you can just click on connect. Okay, And you're also going to see these ones if they're active. You see active instance over there, right? Now, you can also go to your system preference, right? Go to the Apple button, go to system preference, and then you will see MySQL over there, right? You can just click on that and it's still going to open it for you. Okay. So, I mean, in either ways, you should be able to find it. If you're on Windows, you can just, as I said, go to the left bottom over there, just search for MySQL, and you're going to see these two, like the way we are seeing it on Mac, right? MySQL Workbench and also MySQL dot pref dot pref pane, or maybe you're just going to see MySQL, but you should see this symbol somewhere on your system, right? And you can just click on that to see if it is connected. If it's not connected, you can just connect, right? Or otherwise, I mean, the two videos that I showed you earlier on, the two links that I gave you earlier on, should be able to help you connect to, your database successfully. All right. So this workbench that I'm using is connected, right? So that's why you can see this one's being in green, and you can see that here is saying that stop MySQL because it's already connected. All right, so now I'm going to walk you through the interface that we're going to use over here, right? I'm going to walk you through this interface because this is what we're going to use over and over again, right? This is what we are going to use over and over again. So if you see this, in your case, probably you'll be seeing something like this, right? It's possible you'll see something like in the interface should be something like this. Since you have not done anything there, you should see something like this where we have object info and then session over there. Some of you will also see something like this where you see administration and then schemas, right? They're all the same thing, right? They're all the same thing. It depends on the version that you downloaded, right? As I said, this one I'm using 8.0.11, right? And then the version that you downloaded for the workbench, right? You're going to see a slight change over there, but it's just the same thing. This one, if your interface is looking something like this, you can just go here, right? In between here, you see that we have some icons up here, and then we have object info and then session. Just go right above the object over there, right? You should see something like this, an arrow pointing down, right? Something like that. And then when it turns, your cursor turns to that, you can just drag it down, okay? And then you'll be seeing something here, right? Now over here, you see that I have the management and instance, right? Like administration and then schemas. You have management, instance, performance. You will be able to see them over here, management, instance, and then performance, right? You should be able to see them. And then here we have some schemas over there. It's just the same thing. The schemas are going to be there, okay? So depending on the version that you downloaded, you are still going to do the same thing that we're going to do. You don't need to worry about that. Now let's walk through the interface over here to get familiar with this. Now if you see here, up here, right? If you see up here, you can see that's the top, the very top left corner. You see that we have the home button over there. Sometimes you'll be working, if you are not familiar with this interface, you can accidentally click on that and it turns to this, and then you'll be thinking, oh, what happened to my what I'm working, what happened? It's actually just here, right? It's just there. So in this case, I name it as new local instance. You can just click on that and you're back here. If you click on that, you go back. If you click on this, you're here. All right, so you don't need to panic. Now over here we have some stuff over here which are going to be for administration purpose, right? That's why this one, the newer version, is showing you administration and then schemas, and then you can see that we have management instance and stuff like that. So all these things are for administration purpose, right? For instance, if you want to see the status of the server, right? Remember, this one is the MySQL community server, okay? So if you want to see the server status, you click on this, right? And it's going to show you the status over here. Right now you see over here it's running, right? If this one has stopped, then you know that you are not connected to the you're not connected to your to the database over there, okay? So you can just come here and then you check over there, right? And apart from that, you can also check the client connection, right? Some stuff are going to be here which is going to be used by your administrator. Mostly if you're in a company, it's just going to be used by your administrator. We have some privileges that you can either allow some users to use some things or deny them from using some things. All these are administrative things that your administrator, your company administrator, is going to be using, not you as a data scientist, or unless maybe you are the database administrator, right, then you're going to use that, right? So if you go to account limits, you can limit the maximum queries that the person you want to allow the person to use, and then some other administrative rules are going to be here if you set any, right? And then some schemas that I'll tell you what schemas are. Later on I'm going to introduce you to what schemas are, right? You can give some privileges to them, right? Whether you want to revoke all those privileges, I mean, they are all being set over here. As you go through, you're going to know what to do with these things, but as of now it's of no use to you, right? You just have to know that these things are there, so that later on when they become necessary, you know where to find them, right? You can add account, you can remove account over here, right? They're all here. Delete them, add, right? If you click on add account, you can add someone else, right? Or if someone is here, you want to delete the person, you can just delete the person from your system. And that is it. All these are administrative things, right? You can export your data, you can import new data, right? Whatever that you want to do over here, right? If you go to instance, you can shut down the entire system. You see that the database server instance is running, right? It's running over here. You can stop the server, right? Or you can bring it offline, right? You can bring it offline or stop the server. And if there are any errors with your server, you're going to see them over here, right? Startup message log, you're going to see them here as a log over here. Okay, then that's basically what is here, right? If you go to dashboard, if you go to performance and you go to dashboard, you're going to see the entire thing that you're doing, right? The tables that you have created so far, the executions that you have done, right? The network status, you're going to find all of them over here, right? And then the SQL status, the statements that you have run so far, right? We're going to see what SQL statements are later on. You're going to see all of them over here, right? And then the database itself, the status of the database is going to be here, right? How much you have used, how much is left, and all those stuff. They are going to be under performance, right? Mostly what you're going to use, right? These things, it's possible you will never touch them in your entire life if you are not a database administrator, right? Mostly what you're going to need the most all of the time is where schemas is the schemas, right? And the schemas, you're going to find stuff like this. In your case, you might not be seeing all these things over there because these are databases that we're going to use in this course that I've put them over here, right? Their database. Later on, I'll show you how to install this database or create them, right? How to create these databases. I'm going to show you, but in your case, you might not be having them. Okay. Now, this is where you need to pay attention of the things that are going to go here, because that's what you're going to use over and over again, right? In a company, they have their own, database management system where these rights are being managed by some other people, where the database administrators. You are not the one to manage that because it's confidential for the company. This is the part that you have more right to work with, okay? And that's what you need to pay much attention over there. Right now, up here there are some buttons over here, right, which some of them we're going to use earlier, some of them we use them later, right? For instance, if we want to load let me go back somewhere here, right? If we want to load new database, we're going to go to this button over here, click on that, and it's going to open your Windows and then ask you to upload a database if you have it in your system. Okay, this one here, the first one is to create a new window like the one that you're seeing over here. If you click on that, it's going to open a new one, right? And there are some other things here which I'll show you later on, right? Right now, if I show you, you might even forget about them there because they're of no use right now. Now, if you come to this side, you see that we have this part, right? We have about let me show you. We have this part, we have this part, and then we also have this part. Okay, now the first one over here, which is this part, is where you're going to work most of your time. Okay, this is your working environment. This part is your working environment. This is your playground. Okay, you're going to work most of your time over here, and whatever queries that you're going to execute, you're going to see the results down here. Okay, you're going to see the results down here. All right, and then sometimes you might even forget something and you need help with that, right? If such case happens to you, you come to this part, right? This where you find help. So if you go to context, right, context help, and you go to snippets, right? Context help means that you can search something specifically. These are SQL commands that we are going to use, right? But if you don't know how to use them, you can just come here, select whatever it is, and it's going to give you information about that particular statement, or that particular command. Okay, if you go to snippets, it's going to show you examples of how to use that, right? We have DB management, that is database management. If you have SQL, DDL, we're going to know what the DDL is and DML is and all of that. Okay, so for instance, if I select this one, it's going to give me examples of how to use that. Okay, examples of how to use that. So that's this part for you, right? And then if you go up here, right, if you go up here, you see that we have this one over there. We have some 3 buttons over here, right? I'm talking about this place. Okay, now the first one, right, the first one is, you see that the blue is at the left side, right? It means that if you click on that, this thing that you see over here, right, this side of your window, the entire side of this window is gonna go off. Okay, if you click on that, so let's do that and see. You see that part is gone, right? And you see this bottom part, right? You see that we have this bottom blue. If you click on that, it means that you want this bottom part to go. So if you click on that, you see that part is also gone. Now if you want this part that we are seeing right now, the current the current part, which is this part that we are talking about, if you want that part 2 to go, then you need to click on this one, right? And you see that everything is gone. Now you have a wider space to write whatever that you want to write over here. Okay, so write whatever that you want to write over here. If you want to bring them back, you just can click on them, then they will begin to come back, right? Either of them that you want, you can click on them and then they will come back. All right. Okay, now there are some buttons here which I'm going to show you when we start working, because we're going to use them. So I'll show you when we start writing any queries over here. I'm going to show you what they're used for and how to use them. Okay, so this is the entire interface, and this is where you're going to spend your time over and over again, right? Okay, so I hope you're familiar with this interface, and you'll be able to follow along as we get started. Okay. All right, welcome back. Now before we start creating anything or doing anything in our workbench, or in my SQL workbench, before we start creating anything or doing anything, let's first understand the various commands in SQL that we're going to use quite often. Okay, so in SQL we have different commands, and if you're new to SQL, you might be hearing words like DDL, DCL, DML, TCL, DQL, right, and all those things, right? So we have in SQL we have TDL, which is data definition language, right? They are those commands that we use to define our table, right, which you're going to see in the upcoming when we go to the workbench and then we are doing something practical. You're going to see how we are creating table and defining it, right? You're going to see that. You don't need to worry. We also have what is called DCL, right? DCL, which is data control language, right? That's what you use to control the data. So if you see the DDL, which is what we use to define which we use to define tables or database, right? You see that we have create, right, to create table, to create a database. We have drop, right? So if you want to drop a row, drop a column, or drop the entire table, or drop even the database, you can use the drop, right? You can alter, you can truncate. So you use to define what you want to do with your table or your database, right? And then the data control language used to control it, whether to grant permission to use the database or the table, or revoke that permission, right? That is the data control language. Use data control language. So we have grant, and then we have revoke, right? And then we have DML, which is data manipulation language. For that, you use to manipulate the data that you have in the table or in the database. Okay, so for instance, you can insert the data into the table, right? So for that, you use data manipulation language. Ideally, when you're working with when you're in the interface and you're working, you will not be thinking whether you're using DDL or DCL or DML, or you will not be thinking of these words. You only know a certain goal that you want to achieve, and you know what to use to achieve that. All right, but you just need to know that we have these things over there, right? These buzzwords over there. So for instance, you have some data in the table and you want to update it. You use the update command to do that. Or you want to delete something, you use the delete command to do that, right? We also have TCL, which is transaction control language. Okay, So for that, you used to control the various transactions. You're going to see some in this course, right? You can commit or roll back or save a point, right? And then we have the DQL, which is data query language, which mostly you're going to use it. I mean, 80% of the time you're going to use DQL, which is select, right? So the select statement, select this from this, select this from that. Because mostly you just want to select something from the database or from the table. That's what you're going to use quite often, all right? Now, the most used commands among these things is shortened to what is referred to as CRUD, right? So in the industry, you'll be seeing CRUD. Which CRUD command are you using? You'll be seeing it quite a lot. As a data scientist, your team will be talking about this quite a lot. It's just a language that you should just understand, right? As a data analyst or data scientist or machine learning engineer, when you're working with a team, you're just going to be hearing this over and over again, right? Which CRUD command should I use? Something like that. But I mean, as you work with experience, you'll not even be asking the question. You just know what to do. Okay, so CRUD stands for create, and then read, right? Read or retrieve, either of them, right? And then U for update, and then D for delete, right? You either create or you read or retrieve some information from the data, or you update what is in the data or delete it, right? Mostly you're going to use these four commands. All right, so we will start by creating some databases. We're going to see how we create a database practically, right? But before that, let's get an understanding of what schema is, right? Because that's the first thing that we need to understand. If you go into the interface, you can see that we have schema over there. So let's first understand that before we even start doing anything. Okay, so when we talk about schema, it's nothing but the skeleton or structure that represent the logical view, right? The logical view. So it's a skeleton, right? That is a skeleton structure, right? That represent the logical view. The logical view, right? That represent the logical view, right, of the entire database. Okay, so let me show you what that means, right? If we go here and then we go under the schema, right, we have these things over there. These are what we refer to as database. We have SQL underscore HR, which is the HR database. We have SQL underscore inventory, which is inventory database. We have SQL underscore invoicing, which is invoicing database. We have SQL underscore store, which is store database, right? And then we have this is a default database over there, right? It's a default database that will come. So in your case, you might be seeing this. Now, if you open either of these, right? For instance, I open the SQL underscore HR. You see how it is organized. Inside there, we have tables, we have views, stored procedures, we have functions, right? Now, if you go into if you click on the tables also, there are something under that. You see how it is organized. If you go into the tables, we have two tables, the employees and then officers. If you go to employees, there's also something there. You see how it is being organized. If you go to the columns, you see that how it is being organized. So this kind of a structure is what we refer to as the schema, right? That's the schema of the database, all right? So it's the skeleton or the structure, right? That represents the logical view of the entire database. All right, that's how the database is being organized, right? And then the relationship among them, associated among them. So that's what we refer to as schema. How it is being organized like this is the schema. Right? So when we're talking about the schema of your database, we are talking about how it is structured or organized. Okay. All right, so now let's start by creating some database. I'm just gonna get rid of these things over there, right? Okay, so that's this one will become fine. All right, so now I'm going to start by creating a database, and that's how we're going to do it. In the first thing, let me show you how to write a comment in SQL before I even start creating a database. So if you want to write a comment, you do dash, right? 2 dashes and then space. Whatever you write is not going to be executed by SQL. So here I can start writing creating database. Okay, now you see that it's like this, right? If I take off the dash, now you see how it has become. Right now it is even showing me an error. Let me even increase it over here, right? Because it doesn't understand. This is not a command that SQL understands. So it's giving me, it's underlying it and telling me that this is not how you should do it. Okay, so if you want to write a comment, you just precede it with 2 dashes space, and that's all, right? And that's all. You see that it has now been deemed over here for me. Now I can write whatever query that I want to write over here. So let's see how we can create an SQL database. All right, so we're going to use the create command, right? So let me comment it over here. We are using the create command. Remember that over here I told you that the foremost used commands of SQL is going to be this: create, read, update, or delete, right? These are the ones that you're going to use mostly. So the first one that we are using here is create. Okay, the create command, and that's what you're going to use to create the database. So you write create space database, right? Database, and then the name of the database that you want. So in this case, maybe I'm just going to name it as test, maybe test DB, right? That's the name that I want to use. All right, now once I write this, it has been I just have to run it so that it just gets created. So I'm just going to highlight it, then I go to this icon over here, right? This one that is looking like tender. Now you see that execute the selected portion of the script or everything if there's no selections. So you can either select and then execute, or you can just leave it and then just click on that and it's just going to execute. Now if you come down here, you see that we have a green tick over here, which means that it has been created successfully. Okay, if it's red, it means that you have an error, it has not been created successfully. Now once I do this, you are supposed to see this name, this test BD, right? Actually I wanted to do DB, not BD, right? Like database, I mean it doesn't matter, it's just a name that I'm giving, right? I can even name it first database, right? First DB, something like that. I can just do it, or maybe first maybe something like that. New, I'm just going to name it new underscore database, something like that. I mean it's just the way that you want to name it. So I can just execute this one, right? Execute this one. Now once you execute, right, you see that the green tick has come here, right? It's showing you that you have the action you executed is here, and it's saying that it has been executed, and then the response, everything is fine. If there's an error, it's going to show the particular error over here, and then the duration is here. Right now you're supposed to see this name, new underscore database. You're supposed to see it over here. Okay, if you don't see it, you just have to click on this refresh button, right? You see that we have a refresh button here. Click on that and you're going to see it. Now you see that we have new underscore database. So the first one that I created is test BD. You see that is there, right? So that's it. That's how you create a database. It's just as simple as that. Now inside this, if I click on this arrow button here, you see that it has added some kind of some structure over here, right? That's the schema of the database. Automatically it's going to be there, right? And then if you click on this table, there's nothing there, right? There's nothing there. If I go down here to the HR, which has something in it, right? If I click on that, you see that there's an arrow here which is showing that there's something in it, and if you click on that, you're going to see the what tables are in there, right? And each of the tables are having their own thing over there, but in this one we don't have it, so there's no arrow pointing over there. We've just created a database, an empty database with no tables, with no data inside. Okay, in the upcoming lessons we're going to see how we can create tables inside this database. Okay, so go ahead, create your own database and then give it a name that you want, and we meet in the next lesson. All right, welcome back. Now we're going to see how we're going to create tables, right? We're going to see how we can create tables inside the database that we have created. Okay, but before we create tables, there are some concepts that you need to understand. Okay, there are some concepts that you need to understand before we start creating tables. So let's go here and then get understanding of that. Okay, so we need to understand what table is, the things that goes into table, and some of the things that are specifically for SQL that we need to understand. Okay. All right, so in SQL is I mean the table is similar to what you see in Excel or what you know already, although there are some keywords that we use over here. So if you see what I have here, this is sample of an SQL table, right? And if you pick an SQL table, right, if you pick an SQL table, we have rows, then we have columns, right? So each of these things that you see over here, right, if each of these things, for instance this one here, this is a column, right? This part, you see we have another column over here, then we have another column over here, right? Then we have another column over here. Each of the columns are having their own column names, right? We have column names over there, right? You see that we have column names over there. Okay, each of the columns have their column names. If you pick one column, right, if you pick an entire column like this, like what you're seeing here, it is referred to as field, right? If you pick entire column, we refer to that as field, right? And if we come this way, right, we have rows over here. Okay, we have rows over here, and each of the rows is having what we refer to as key. Okay, what we refer to as key. This one is something important that you're going to learn. Right, we're going to spend some time with it over there, right? So we have rows over there, just like we have columns. We have rows over here, right? And each of these rows are having keys. So the key for the first row is 0. The key for the second row is 1. Right, the key for the third row is 2. Right, so it could be different. In this case, it's just 0, 1, 2, 3. Sometimes it could be a combination of letters and numbers and some special characters and stuff like that. Okay, but I mean, in each of the table you're going to have a key over there. It's just compulsory to have a key in any of the tables that you're going to create. All right. Now, if you pick if you pick any of the rows, right, if you pick an entire row like this, right, if you pick an entire row like this, it is an entire row is referred to as a record, whilst an entire column, right, an entire column is referred to as a field. Okay, each of the data points, for instance 2076-3417, right, is referred to as a value. Okay, if you pick say agronomy, it's referred to as a value. If you pick say agriculture, it's referred to as a value, right? If you pick the entire row like that, it's referred to as a record, right? And if you pick an entire column like that, it's referred to as a field. Okay, and then don't forget we have an index, or we have a key. That's the name that you need to understand, a key, right? We have a key over there. All right, so this is an SQL table for you. All right, now let's spend some time with keys, right? We will spend some time understanding keys in tables. So as we saw earlier on, we were seeing a table, right? We saw a table which is having an ID, and the IDs are 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, right? Now if you see this one over here too, we have a key, right? So this part is referred to as a key. Okay, we have this one too, we refer to it as a key. Okay, and if you look into the keys, right, if you look into the keys, we see that we have student underscore ID. So this student underscore ID column is a key. Okay, this column is a key, right? And if you see the keys, we have 101, right? We have 102 all the way up to the 105. This is what is referred to as the key. And each of the tables that you're going to create in SQL is going to have a key. The key is what helps you or the system to identify what information that you want and then retrieve it for you. Okay, so if you see over here, you see that here we have customer underscore ID, right? And then we have product underscore ID, we have order quantity. So either of these things can be a key. Okay, either of these things can be a key depending on the particular key that you're referring to. Either of these things can be a key, and it's not always going to be like an ID, right? It's not always going to be named as say customer underscore ID or simply ID, right? It can be maybe for instance, instead of customer ID, it can be say customer number, and that particular customer number column can be referred to as a key. Okay, so now let's spend some time to understand the various keys that we have in an SQL table. All right, so we have what is called primary key, right? The first thing that you need to understand here is primary key, and each of the tables that you're going to create is going to have a primary key, right? Each of the tables is just compulsory to have a primary key over there. You can create a table without the other keys, but it's compulsory to have a primary key in there. Okay, so a primary key is a field in a table, right? A field in a table which uniquely, that's the keyword over here, right, uniquely identifies each row. So if you see the table that we have here, we have row number, we have name, age, and then GPA. Okay, now the row numbers, right, just like in your normal days in college, right, your row numbers are what identifies you, right? Most of the time they will mention row number something something, and then you should know that it is you. That is because in your class you might have two people with the same name, right, but the row number will be different. Okay, so in order to identify row number instead of their names, Okay, it's best to use their row number instead of their names. So that's what happens in SQL. We create a column, and then we make it a primary key, which means that we're going to base on that column to uniquely identify the records, right? Uniquely identify the records in the in your table, right? Remember that the entire row is referred to as a record, and the entire column is referred to as a field. Okay, so if you want to identify this particular, if there are, for instance, two students with the same name over here, we could still identify the different students just using the row numbers. Okay, and that's what we refer to as primary key. And if when you're creating the tables, you explicitly specify that I want this particular column to be a primary key. Okay, you can do that, right? You can explicitly do that, or by default it's going to indicate it for you, right? And there's a settings over there that you can change it to identify maybe every first row should be a primary key, or every second row should be a primary key when you're creating it, right? But you can also hard code it. Okay, now there are some things that you need to understand about primary key, right? The primary key cannot be contain null values. That is, you cannot leave it blank, right? For instance, you create row number and then the row number will not be there. Meanwhile, you have these persons over there. Since these are records, right, they should have something that will uniquely identify them, right? So you cannot leave this part blank. There should actually be something here to uniquely identify them, right? This part, maybe the name of the student can be blank, but not the row number, right? Or maybe the age can be blank. You can omit that, but the row number of that student should be there. Okay, and then you can only have one primary key, so you cannot declare this column as a primary key and then maybe declare their age as a primary key, or maybe declare their name also as a primary key. No, you should have only one primary key. Okay, so these are things that you need to put at the back of your mind as we move on. Okay, then we also have what is called foreign key. Okay, we have what is called foreign key. So in SQL you can create a key in one table and then link that key to another table. When you're creating the second key, you can also include the same key over there, and that key is going to be a foreign key. Just think of it as you moving from your country to another country. You become a foreigner, right? So if, for instance, this ID over here, which is a course ID, move from this table to this table, becomes a foreigner over here, and once it comes here, we refer to it as a foreign key, right? It could be a primary key over here. So for instance, let's say we declared this column as a primary key, right? It's not always, the primary key is not always going to be the first one, like I showed you earlier on. So maybe you'll be programming your mind that the first column is going to be the primary key. No, it could be any other, depending on what you have specified to be the primary key, right? So let's say we identify the course ID as the primary key, right? When it comes to the student marks table, which is the second table that we created, right, it becomes a foreign key, right? Because originally we did not create it on the student marks table, we created it on student details table. Okay, so once we have already created here and declared it as a primary key, we can now declare it over here as a foreign key, not a primary key. Okay, so for instance, if I want to retrieve student number 1, right, this student number 1 over here, or maybe student number 3, John, right? Let's say I want to retrieve John's marks, right? I want to retrieve his marks. What I can do is that I can look for John's course ID, and then when I come here, when I find the same course ID, right, I can now trace it to whatever marks associated with that course ID, and then I can now show this number, right, this number 93 as I consider, yes, I found it, John's marks is 93. Okay, so I can combine, I can go through several tables and then be retrieving information just using the primary key and then the foreign keys that exist among them. Okay, that's why earlier on we learned about relational database, right? We learned about relational database, that is RDBMS, right? There's some kind of relationship that exists among the tables. Okay, so this kind of relationship will help me be retrieving information from different tables. Okay, and that's the beauty of database management systems. All right, so let me get rid of these things over here. All right. Now the next one is composite key. Sometimes you define the primary key, but that wouldn't be enough to uniquely identify the records that you have, right? So So for instance, if we declare that the row number is the primary key, right, sometimes the row number will not be convincing enough, right? So what we can do is to combine some different data points also. So for instance, maybe you can do area underscore 21, right? Something like that. Let me do it over here. We can do something like this, area underscore 21, right? And that becomes a composite key. We have combined area's name with his or her age, right? His or her age, right? And that becomes a primary key for us, right? And maybe we can also do something like this. We can combine maybe the row number, which already is a primary key, with maybe the phone number, okay? And that will also become a composite key, right? In that case, we refer to it as a composite key, right? When we combine more than one identifiers or columns together to form a key, we refer to it as a composite key. All right. Now we also have what is called a super key. Now a super key is similar to a combination of primary key and composite key, right? You can use just one column to as a primary key or a super key, right? If it is able to uniquely identify that column without any doubt, right? For instance, if you're in a class, your roll number uniquely identifies you without any doubt, that becomes a super key, okay? But if in any ways the row number is not enough, then you can combine that row number, which is already a primary key, with another one, right? And that becomes a super key, right? You can also refer to it as a composite key. It's a form of a composite key, right? But when you combine the two and the two uniquely identifies the records, then it becomes a super key. Okay, it's a type of a composite key where you're combining, right? But if it's able to uniquely identify the records, then it's referred to as a super key, right? For instance, the phone number, if two people are not using the same phone number, then that column can become a primary key, or you can refer to it as a super key. In some cases, you can use maybe the phone number as a primary key, and then you realize that maybe we have two sisters in the class which they are using the same phone number, right? So if you ask them of their phone number, maybe they want to give their mother's phone number, and their mother's phone number is 1, and in that case the phone number can be a primary key, although it uniquely identifies all the students, right? But in some circumstances, it's not able to uniquely identify them, right? And then that's when you need to combine that phone number with something else, right, to become a composite key or a super key, right? Or if you combine it with something else and it's uniquely identified, then it becomes a super key, right? Okay, we also have what is called alternate key, right? Alternate key is just another key that you can use to identify or uniquely identify the records that you have, right? So initially you're supposed to have a primary key, so each of the tables that you're going to create is going to have a primary key. But if in any circumstance you also have another column that also identifies the records, then that column you can also declare that column as an alternate key, right? So in any of the case, you can either use the primary key or the alternate key, right? Maybe, as I said, two sisters have the same phone number, right? They're using their mother's number, so this one wouldn't be enough. But although in certain circumstances you can use it for maybe if the students are 20 in the class, maybe about 18 of them have unique phone numbers, right? And then only 2 of them are using one phone number. In such a case, in most of the instances, you can use their phone number to identify their records. Okay, but if you want to records for those 2, you can now use the primary key, which gives each of the students unique row number. Okay, so alternate key is nothing but another key that you can use in place of the primary key. All right, so in the next tutorial, we're going to learn the various data types that we have in SQL. All right, welcome back. Now in this particular tutorial, we're going to learn the various data types that we have in SQL and how we're going to use them, right? After this, we're going to go to the workbench and then MySQL workbench, and then we're going to create our first table and then see how we're going to use these various data types. All right, so let's get started. So in SQL, these are the various common data types that you're going to use over and over again, right? In 95% of your time, you're going to use these data types, right? You're going to create tables where you need to declare either of these in your statements. Okay, all right, so the first one over here is int, right? In SQL we have what is called int. Int is nothing but integer, right? So that's a short form for integer. Okay, so let me actually put them over here so that you get to understand what we are doing, right? So int is nothing but integer. So I think you know what an integer is from your college days. You know what an integer is. So int is nothing but just positive or negative numbers, right? Positive or negative numbers like this. In this case, an example that I'm using here is positive 100. Okay, it could be anything. It could be 2, it could be 1, it could be 3, right? It could be -1 or something like that. It could be 0, right? But these are integers. Okay, these are integers. Now we also have what is called decimal, right? We have decimal. So if there are points over there, right? If they're pointed and there's some numbers after the point, then the entire thing becomes decimal, right? And in SQL, when you are declaring the data types, this is how you do it, right? You specify that it's going to be decimal, and in bracket you specify how many numbers are going to come before the decimal point and after the decimal point, right? So for instance, in this case, we will have something, we have 100 over here, and then we have 1 2 over here. So 1 and then 0 0, right? Three numbers before the decimal point, and then 2 digits after the decimal point. So it's gonna be something like this. So it's gonna declare it decimal, right? And then in bracket I'm going to write 3 2. Okay, that is 3 digits in front of the decimal point, right? 3 digits in front of the decimal point, and 3 digits after the decimal point. Okay, 3 digits in front of the decimal point, 3 digits after the decimal point. So that's basically how you're going to do it when it's an integer. And then we also have varchar, right? Varchar means variable character, right? It simply means text or a string, right? You can call it text or you can call it string, right? All right, something like this, something like name of a place or name of a person, right? So if you're creating a table, a database of students in a class, right, their names is going to be in the form of a varchar or variable character. It's a character or it's a text, but the text size is not fixed. It's variable, right? It can be a small size or large size, you don't know, right? Maybe the first person's name is, say, Bright, right? So in this case you have 6 letters over there, right? And then someone's name might be something like, say, something like John, something like that, right? In this case you have 5 letters over here, right? So the character size is variable, right? It's not the same, right? Someone can be called Eve, right? In this case you have only 3, so the size is not actually fixed, so we call it a variable character. Okay, variable character. And if you see over here, you see that we have, let me get rid of these things. You can see that we have some letter inside the bracket, right? That is actually used to indicate how much size that you're expecting. So maybe the students in the class, I'm expecting their names, maybe the longest name in the class to be maybe 20 characters. In that case, if I am going to declare my data type, I'm going to do varchar. It could be capital letters or small. Either of them works. So then maybe I put 20 inside, meaning that I'm expecting the length of the characters that they are going to give me. The names is going to be maybe 20 letters. The maximum is going to be 20 letters long. It could be it could just be maybe 5, right? Maybe the person's name is just 5 characters, right? But I've given room to store 20 characters, okay, so that I will not get short. If I give say let's say 12 over here, and let's say someone's name is having, say, 15 characters. When it gets to the 12th character, it's going to end there. The rest of the characters in the person's name is not going to come. So let's say, for instance, I put 3 here, and then someone comes and they are saying that their name is say Bright. So if the person comes and I start typing their name over here, right? So maybe I type the person's name, right? So BRI, that's 3 characters. After that, the rest of the names are not going to come. Okay, the rest of the names are not going to come. So I'm supposed to get GH and then T there, right? But since I only allowed 3 letters to be entered, right, the rest of them are not going to come, right? That's why you need to be flexible when it comes to declaring over there. But as you're giving huge numbers over here, right? So if I give, say, 20, right, in the memory, you're occupying 20 space over there. So the larger you give, the more memory that you're going to use over there too. So you need to be reasonable with that as well. Okay, so it's not that you can give say 50 here, so you're going to give 50 there, right? Meanwhile, maybe the longest character in the names of the person is just going to be maybe 7, right? And then you give 50, which means that it's going to occupy 43 spaces over there for nothing. Okay, it's just going to use that memory for nothing. You're just going to reserve it for nothing. So you just have to be reasonable when you're declaring things like that. All right, let me get rid of that. So and we also have what is called dates, right? We also have dates. So it's possible that the data that you're going to input is going to be date, so you need to declare that in this column I'm going to enter date. Okay, we're going to see how we're going to declare this, right? It could also be not just date but timestamp, right? Timestamp means that the date will come in addition to the time that the event happened, right? So maybe the time that the customer visit your website to buy something, you want to capture that as well. So in that case, you declare that column to be timestamp so that you have the flexibility to enter these things over there, right? And sometimes too, as I said here, you can give the character that you're expecting, but it's possible that you're also going to have huge data points over there, right? In that case, you need to just declare it as blob, right? Blob, it means that you can store huge or large data over there. Okay, and you're just going to use either a combination of some of these or just going to use just some of them, right? Mostly it's going to be a combination of all these or some of them. That's how it's going to be, depending on the use case that you're going to work on. All right, so now we're going to see how we are going to create a table, and then how we're going to insert data into the created tables that we're going to do. All right, so let's first create our first table. Let's go into the workbench and then see how we're going to create our first table. Now in order to create the table, let's go here, and then what I'm going to do is that I'm going to use the same file that we created our database, right? I'm going to use that one. So now we can see that we have our new database that we created over there, right? We can see that it's there. So in order to create, let me now put a comment here, right? Then I'm going to do creating I do double T, so creating tables, right? And I'm going to put it over here. All right, so in order to create table, we're still going to use the create command, right? In order to create a database, we use create command, right? We use create database, then the database name. It's the same thing with table. If you want to create a table, you do create, and then you do table, and then the table name that you want, right? So maybe we want to create table students, okay? Right, so I'm just gonna do it like this. Okay, now you should notice something over here. You can see that I'm using some capital letters, right? And then I'm using some small letters, right? Just like this one, I'm using some capital letters, then I'm using small letters. Actually, you can use all small letters, right? So I can just do like this, create, right? And then I do table, right? Now you should notice that if what you typed is a keyword, you're going to see it in blue, right? Depending on the color, the color coding that your management system is using, but you're going to see that one highlighted in a different color from normally the ordinary ones is going to be in black, right? The ones that you have flexibility to give is going to be black, but the commands, the SQL commands are going to be either in blue or other color, but not black like this. Okay, you can actually change this one if you want, but I think this one does the job, right? And in order to differentiate the keywords from the ones that you have flexibility to create, I normally use capital letters. It's actually a good practice, right, to use capital letters it's actually a good practice, right, to differentiate the commands from the other things that you have flexibility to do. Okay, so in all the commands that I'm going to do, I'm going to use capital letters to write the commands. Okay, so here I'm going to change it to capital letters. I'm going to write create, right? And then since we're creating table, I do create table. Okay, and then the table name will come. Now, if you see over here, you can see that this one is underlined with red, right? And then you have some sign over here showing that what we typed is an error, right? And it's because in MySQL, when you finish one command, you should terminate it, right, with a semicolon, right? Now, once I put that there, you will see this one vanished. Okay, now you see that the red line has vanished, right? It has vanished from the create. Now it is as students. It means that the statement that we have written is not complete, right? We need to complete it. So what I'm going to do is this: create, then you bring a bracket there. Now what you need to do over here is to put the column names, right? Remember, a table is having column names, right? It has the column name, then inside there we have the records in there. Okay, so that's what we are going to do. We're going to create the column names. So let's say we're creating this table, so we have the first column name to be what? Row underscore number. So that's what you're going to put. So I'm going to do row underscore number. Okay, that's one thing that I'm going to do. Now I need to specify what kind of data I'm going to accept here. Is it an integer? It's going to be a character, that's letters. Okay, I need to specify whether this row number is going to accept integers, it's going to accept characters or text, or it's going to accept date or whatever, right? So I'm going to specify here that it's going to be an integer. Okay, because if you see the row number is an integer, right, it's going to contain an integer. Then once that is done, I put comma over there. The next one is what? Name. So I'm going to put it I'm going to create that one, and then you need to specify whether this one is going to be character or whatever. So this one is going to be this is going to be valchar, variable character. Okay, so I'm going to declare it over here, valchar, right? Since it is a keyword, I'm going to use capital letters, but as I said, you can use small letters, right? And then I'm going to say that the maximum letters that I'm expecting to of the names is just going to be, say, 10, right? I'm going to put 10 over there. Then I put comma, right? The next one there is let's go back, is their age, right? So I created that one as well, age, and the age is going to be an integer, right? So I'm going to do integer. As I said, you can make it small or caps. So you see this one, I made it small, and it's still not, it's still not underlying it, right? Which means that it's right, but I'm going to change it to caps. Okay, and then this one, I'm making it an integer. Then I put comma there. What else is there? Their phone, right? So I'm just going to put phone over here, and the phone is going to be an integer as well, right? The phone is going to be an int as well. Now once this one is done, I can now close the bracket, right? And I can now close the bracket like that. Once I do this, everything is done. Okay, once I do this, everything is done. Now you can see that maybe I should stretch this one a bit, right? And then let me do this. Okay, so that even if I stretch it all the way here, I still have some data points which I have to scroll before I see them, right? So in SQL, in order to, a standard way of doing this is to do this, right? Put these ones over here, right? This is how, you do it to make it more readable, right? To make it more readable. All right, so this is how you do it, right? So that you see that, okay, you created students, the row number is this. So this one, I don't have to be scrolling before I see them. I can just see them over here, right? Now once I can do only this one, right, I can just highlight them and then execute. Right now, if I do that, I have an error here. If you have an error, it's going to show you over here. You see that this one is red. The ones that we executed is going to be in green, right? If we executed successfully, it's going to be in green. But if you get this red, it means that there's an error. Now you can, if you come down here, you can read the particular error. The response is saying the error code 1046, and it's saying that no database selected. We did not specify where we want to store this. You get it? We did not specify where are we putting this, right? Where are we putting this information that we are creating? Remember that you can create the data to reside in the database. So which database are we using over here? We did not specify, right? We have several databases, but SQL is not understanding where to put the data that you want. In that case, what you do is you do this use, then you specify which database name, right? So in this case, I'm going to use the new database that we just created. Okay, when I do this, I'm going to have an error over here, right? Because I need to terminate this statement. Okay, now once I do that, everything works fine. Now I can highlight it, and then I want to just do this. If I now run it, I'm clicking on this thing here to run it. Now you see that now everything is fine, right? It's used this new database, and then it has created a table. Okay, if we want to see if it has been created, right, now we can do this. We can go here and then use the select statement. Remember earlier on I told you that you're going to use these commands quite often, right? Now we have used the create one. We can use the read or retrieve. Okay, and read or retrieve command in SQL, we call it select. Okay, we call it select. So I can do select then star, right? Select star means that select everything that you have in the table, right? So select star and then use the from, right? From where are you selecting it, right? From students table, from this table that we just created. Okay, from this table that we just created. So let me put it over there, right? Now if I run this one, now see that it's showing up here. Now where the error is going to appear is down here, but after that, up here you see that we have row number, name, age, and then phone number. That's what we created, right? We created row number, we created name, then we created age, and then phone, right? So you can see that over there. Now we don't have any data points in there, right? We don't have any data points in there, but we have been able to create this this table student inside the new underscore database, right? If you come here, just refresh, right? The tables, we have the arrow sign there. If you go inside, you see that we have students, right? And if you go there, you see that we have if you go to columns, we have row number, name, age, and then phone. We have the skeleton there, the schema is there. Now we can put some data into this table because the table is just empty. It's just an empty table. Okay, so in the next tutorial we're going to learn how to insert data, right? We're going to learn how to insert data into table. All right, we're going to learn, we have learned how to create, so we're going to learn how to insert the data into table. All right, so see you in the next tutorial. All right, welcome back. Now in this tutorial we're going to learn how to insert the data into the students table that we created. Okay, so let's go all the way down here. Let me go down here, and then I'm going to do 2 dashes, and then I'm going to write inserting data into tables, right? Or maybe table, since we only have one table created so far, right? So in order to insert data into table, we use the insert command, right? We use the insert command. So for that, I'm going to write insert, right? Insert into, right? I'm going to insert into. And where am I inserting into? I'm going to insert into the student table that we created. Okay, so let me copy it and bring it down. All right, insert into students. Now once I do this, I need to specify what I am going to put over there. So I do values, right? And the values that I want to insert. So values, you open bracket, and then the values that you want to insert. So we have the column, we have the row number, name, age, and then phone. So let's say the students row number is row number 1, right? Just like we're having over here, right? We are creating this table. So the first student, the row number is row number 1. So let's put it there. And the name is what? Aria. So let's put the name over there, ARYA, right? And then the age is 21, right? So I put the age there, and then the phone number 749 whatever it is. I'm just gonna put it over here, 7419 something. Okay, and then I close the bracket, right? So now you can see over here I have red underline over here. It's because we have not terminated the first statement that we have, right? We need to terminate it with semicolon. Okay, then you see that it's gone over there. I can highlight this one, execute. Okay, execute. Now I have an error here saying that unknown column area in field list, right? Now it's identify this name here as a column, right? What we have to do in SQL is to put a quote, right? To put a quote here so that SQL will know that, okay, this is a value but not a column name. That's what you have to do. Okay, so this one is acting as a character or a string. Okay, so in this case the character length is 1 2 3 4. Remember earlier on we gave character length of 10, so this one is going to use it has reserved 10 spaces, but it's going to use only 3 of them. Okay, over there. Now if I highlight again and then I do execute, Now it has executed successfully over there. You can see it down here, right? So I'm just doing this so that, I mean, otherwise you're going to run into the error and you don't know how to solve it. Later on, I'll be doing it without maybe errors coming, but as we are getting started, we need to make the mistakes together so that we learn it. Otherwise, it becomes difficult, especially when you're doing it alone and you don't know how to even debug it. All right, so I'm just going to do all these things for you to see. Now, once I do this, we have everything has run successfully. If you want to see the table again, you can just do the same command over here, right? Maybe put it over here. Let me first terminate this, otherwise you're going to have that underlying error over there. Terminate this first statement and then highlight this one, execute. Okay, now if you see the table, row number 1, name is Aria, age is 21, phone is the phone number that we give. Okay, now you see that's how we are inserting the the data into it. Okay, now you can insert more than one. It's not that you're going to insert them one by one, you're going to set the records one by one, right? So over here, instead of one by one, I can just copy this one, right? Let me copy it from here. I can just copy it from here, put a comma here, right? And then I can just repeat it, right? I can just repeat it, comma over here, put it over here, comma over here, repeat it several times. That's the data points that are going to go inside over there. Okay, now the second person's name is Bran, so I just change this one to Bran, right? And the age of Bran is 19. So I'm just gonna put over here 19. Right. So if it is an integer, you don't need to put any quote over there. If it is a string or characters or text like this, then you put a quote over there. Okay. Then the next person's name is John. This one I can change the phone number. All right. If you want, you can just maybe put any phone numbers over there. The second one, the name is John. Right. So put John over there. Let's put John over there, and John's phone number, I'm going to put it something like this. And John's age is 24, right? So I'm going to put 24 over there. The next person is Max, right? So you are Max, okay? And Max phone number, I'm just gonna do something like that. Right, so I think that's the last one. I need to change this one to this. That's the row numbers. I need to change them as well, right? So I'm gonna get rid of this one since we don't have up to that point, right? So these are the values that are going to go inside there. Okay, so now I'm going to run this one again. So let me execute this over here. Okay, now when I do this one, what did I have? I'm having an error here. You have an error in your SQL, blah 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 blah. Okay, what is causing the error is this. You see that first we inserted this, right? Aria, we have already put that one in our database, but I'm still running it again, and that's why it's, if I want to put data points at the same place we have already put, then I have to delete what is already there. Okay, then I have to delete what is already there. All right. So what I'm going to do is that since we have already put this one, I'm going to get rid of that one and then insert the rest of the people. Okay, insert the rest of the people. So let me now insert these guys. Okay, now you see that it's running smoothly for us. See that it's running smoothly for us. So what I'm going to do is to do the select. Let me terminate it using semicolon. Right, remember here I'm using comma. Right, I'm using comma. Right, and here to terminate the statement I'm using semicolon. Right, so let me run this one again. Okay, now if you see, let me bring this one down so that you get to see what we have done. Okay, drag this one down, and then I'm going to drag this one up. Okay, so now you see that we have the table there, right? So we have row number, name, age, and then phone, right? And then exactly the data points that we have, right, is what we have been able to create. Okay, it's what we have been able to create over there. All right, so here when I'm doing the select, you can see that I'm doing select star, right? Select star means that select everything that is on the table, right? Show me everything that is inside my table, right? I can specify something else, maybe select specifically, maybe select name. Right now, if I do select name, it's going to just select the name of the students that I have. That only that column is going to come, right? So if I run this one, now you see that I have only the name. Okay, only the name. So you can just do it like that, either select all of them or select something. So I can maybe select say the row underscore number, right? The row number and then their name, right? Maybe this. If I do this, now see that I have the name and then the row number. Now is the position that you do the select, you use the select statement also matters, right? Because I have the name before the row number. So when you come here, although in the table we created row number before the name, but when I was selecting, I did this, right? So that's what it's going to show me. This one is not stored anywhere, just to show you the results here. The original data set is still having the row number to start with. Okay, if you want the row number to start with, I can just do this and then put it over here and then put my comma there. If I run this one now, the row number is going to start first before the name, right? So the order that you do it is just going to give you the way the output is going to be. Okay, so now you see how it is. So you can just select everything, right? You just use the star to select everything, or you can select specific columns, all right, and then arrange it the way that you want. Okay, so now we have seen how to create database, we have seen how to create tables, and then we have seen how to insert the data into tables. In the next tutorial, we're going to learn some of the constraints that you can give when you're creating these tables. Okay, so there are times that you want to specify give some conditions when you're creating the table, and we're going to learn that in the next tutorial. All right, welcome back. Now in this particular tutorial, we're going to learn what is called constraints, right? So when you're creating tables in SQL, most of the time, in fact almost all the time, you want to give some constraints to the tables that you're creating, right? So that when the user is entering the input, you will not be having false input being inserted in the columns that are not supposed to accept those values. So for instance, if we go back here and then we created this table, right? So if you want the row number to be a primary key, for instance, right? The row number, you cannot leave it now, right? But if you give this interface, right, and then let's say that you don't have these things there, let's say all these are blanks, right? All these are blank spaces, right? We don't have any numbers in there, right? Now what you're doing is that you are telling the students to enter their data point. So let's say this is an interface, or it's a software that you're giving them, right? So you're using this software to accept a user input. Okay, you want them to enter their row number, their name, and then the age, and then their phone number, right? Now when you're creating the data, the table like this, right, what you want to specify is that this column is a primary key, it's going to be my primary key, and as such I don't want any user to leave this records blank, right? So you should definitely enter your row number, right? That's what I want. You should definitely enter your row number, or you should definitely enter your name. I don't want you to leave it blank. If you leave it blank, it's going to give you an error. Okay, so for instance, if you go to if you go to Google and then you are filling some forms, it's possible that you leave some forms blank, and then it will give you an error that this form is required. Okay, this particular area is required. You're supposed to put the data there. That's how it is. You explicitly specify when you're creating the table that this column is supposed to be having data points there, right? And that is what we use this for. We use not now, right? Meaning that you're supposed to put data points there. And then you see that we also have unique. We have unique over there. Unique means that the data points that are going to be there should be unique from the other data points that you have entered. So you cannot come here and then you enter one here and then you enter one here. No, we want this column to be unique. So you cannot enter, two people cannot have the same row number. Okay, so you can specify the column to be unique, right? And then we also have primary key. As I said, primary key is going to be uniquely identify that column. So you can also say that same column should be unique. It should be not now, and it should be a primary key. Okay. And we have a foreign key. A foreign key, we have also learned foreign key, right? So if you have first created one table and you're creating a second table, you can specify some of the columns in the second table to be a primary key, like we saw earlier on, right? So So let's say we have created a first table, right? That is students detail, right? Student details. And then we have created a second table, which is going to be students marks. Now on the first table, we have customer ID over there, right? When we're creating the second table, we can indicate that we want customer ID there because we're going to match it with the marks. Okay. So this one we specify that it's going to be a foreign key because it's coming from some other table that later on we can use to interact with each other. Okay. And then we also have check, right? So check is going to ensure that the values in a column satisfy a specific condition. So if you say that some of the column is supposed to be not null, right, or supposed to be unique, have unique values, you can put a check constraint there, so that this check is going to check to make sure that that column is actually unique, or is that column is actually contain values and the user did not leave it blank. Okay. And then if the user leave the column blank, right, let's say that you did not specify or declare that column to be not null. Okay, you have given the flexibility to maybe enter data or leave it blank. If the user decides to leave it blank, you can create certain default, right? Certain default data point over there, right? So let's give an example here, right? Let's say the age of the person, right? So let's say we have the age of the person. Now you do not give a constraint here that this column is supposed to be not null, which means that the person can decide to put their age or not. If the person decides to leave their age, then you can use the default constraint over there, right? That okay, if the person leave their age, I want the default age to be say 15, right? So which is basically like there's no one who's going to be below 15 in the class, so I want the default age to be say 15. You can do that. So if the person decides to put their age, they're going to have the original age, the actual age over there. If they decide not to, then the default age is going to be populated over there. Okay. And then we have create index, right, which is used to create and then retrieve data from the database very quickly. It's actually going to be an index over there for us, which you're going to base on to which you're going to base on to be able to retrieve. So if I do select one, it's going to select one, that entire record for me. Okay. Actually, let me show you practicals of all these, right? I'm going to give you a hands-on of all these constraints so that you get to understand it. I actually have explanation of them with the code over here, but let me just forget about this one. Go here and then demonstrate them practically for you to really get to understand. Okay, so I'm going to click on this button over here to create a new window. All right, a new window altogether. Now here, let me bring this one down. Now here I'm going to, let me zoom in so that you see what I'm going to do, right? So I'm going to write a comment here, and then I'm going to put here constraints, right? So we're going to do the constraints, right? So let me show you all these constraints, right? So the first constraint over there was unique, not now, right? So let me just walk you through all these, right? Okay, so I'm going to start by using the create command. I'm just going to create new tables over here, right? So I'm going to do create table, right? And then the table name. So since these are keywords, that's why I'm typing them in uppercase, right? Then I do persons, right? So that is the table that I'm going to create, right? I'm going to give it name as persons because it's just going to contain, it's just hypothetical table. It's just going to contain the person's name and something like that, right? So let me just do it. And I open brackets over here, and then inside that, some of the things that we can create, maybe I'm not sure, but maybe the ID of the person, right? And the ID, I need to declare the data type, remember? So I do int. It's gonna be int, and this is a keyword, so I can maybe make it in caps, right? This is fine. Now here I can specify that this one should be not null, okay, which means that the user should not leave this thing. The user should make sure that something is there. So I have the data type there. Then I also declare that I give a constraint over here that it should not be null. Now I'm going to do another maybe the person's first name, something like that. Let me just do it like that. So or maybe make this one in small case first. It's also okay, you can start with capital. It's not that you're just supposed to always make it small, right? So I'm going to do first name, and this one is going to be Valka, right? And then I give, that's the data type, is going to be Valka, and I just give maybe, how many should I give? Maybe let me use 8 over here. That's fine, right? And I can also give a constraint here or not, right? Maybe the first name should be not now, right? It should be not now, so that's fine. And then I can give last underscore name, right? The last name, right? And that is also going to be Valka. It's going to be characters over there, right? Their last name too, I'm going to give 8 over there, right? There shouldn't be comma here before the data type, right? The comma should come after. And then this one, maybe the last name, they can leave it, so I can just put it as now. Okay, maybe I should just add one more, maybe the age, right? Age of the person, and the age is going to be an integer, right? An integer. And their age too, they can leave it, right? Or maybe should I make it them leave it or not? It's fine, let them leave it if they want. All right, and then maybe I can add the default, right? Okay, let's do the not now before we do the default, right? So that's fine. So here I'm saying that the ID column, they shouldn't leave it. Their first name, they shouldn't leave it, but their last name and the age, they can leave it if they want. Okay, they can leave it if they want. Now what I'm going to do next over here is to specify which database that we are going to use. Remember earlier on we did not do that, and then we got an error. So I'm going to do use database. Actually, let me just write the name of the database. It's going to be new underscore database, right? So use new underscore database. Okay, and then I terminated this, so that's going to be the database that we're going to use. Okay, all right, now here I need to close the bracket. Remember we open brackets here, so I'm just going to just going to close it over there. Now if I run it, right, I need to run the entire thing over here. Now everything is fine. So if we want to see what is inside there, we can do select, right, and then select star, and we're going to select from, then the table name that we created, right? So select star from persons. Okay, that's what we need to do. Now if I do this and execute, you see that we have our table. We have the ID, the first name, the last name, and then the age. It's an empty table. We don't have anything. Remember, we just created, we have not inserted. Okay, so now when we're creating, we have given the constraints over there, right? So this one, let me write it over here. This one is let me do this. This one is the not now, right? Not now. Okay, this one is the not now over there. All right, so now I'm going to show you the unique, right? I'm going to show you the unique constraint as well. So I'm going to do this. Let me bring this one here, and then I'm going to put it over here, and then here I'm going to write unique, right? So it's going to be unique constraint, right? Okay, so let me show you how to create that one as well. So let's say we're creating a table. So now I'm going to drop this table, right? And then I'll recreate it. So I'm going to do drop table. Then the table name is what? Persons. Okay, drop table persons over there. Right now, let me terminate this statement so that this red will go. That's fine. Now if I do this and run this one, right, now the table has been dropped, so we don't have the table again. If I run this select statement, it's going to give me an error over there, right, because we don't actually have the table, right? If I run this one, if you go down here, you see that we have an error over there, right? Error code table new database blah, 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 does not exist, right? That's what is actually showing me over here, right? It does not exist. Okay, so we have actually dropped it, so we cannot select anything from it because it doesn't exist. We have dropped it. So I'm going to now create it. I'm going to create the table again. So I'm going to do create, then I'll show you the unique constraint. So I'm going to create table, and then the table name, I'm just going to create the same table name, persons, right? And then inside persons, I'm going to put some things over there, right? I'm going to put maybe the same stuff. So we have the ID, and the ID we say that should be int, right? Should be int, and then we can put the not null over there if we want. Okay, and then we're also having their first name, and so underscore first name, and this one we say that it's gonna be variable character, it's varchar, and then the size maybe I can give it 19. I should put a comma over here, or here I should put a comma over there, and then we say that we also going to collect their last name, and that is also going to be varchar. Okay, and that's we want it to be say 20, the size should be 20, and then we want their age as well. The age we say that it's going to be int, and we want we can make it null, right? We can declare or just leave it. If you don't declare, it means that you are allowing null, right? It means that by default it's going to be null, right? But if you don't want it to be null, then you need to specify. Okay, now down here I can use the unique keyword, right? So I can write unique over here, and then the column that I want the column that I want it to be unique, I put it here in the bracket. So I can put the ID, maybe I want the ID column to be unique, so I put it over there like that. Okay, then finally I just close it like that. Okay, so let me terminate this first statement over here. Now once I do that, everything is fine, right? Everything is fine. Now if I do this and then run it again, good, everything has run. Now you see that it has run successfully for us, right? So we have actually specified that the column should be unique, right? Let me try and then insert some data points over there so that you get to see what it is, right? So let's say we do insert, right? We do insert, and then we set values, right? So we're going to insert into this this person's table that we created. All right, and then the values that we want to insert is going to be this. So the ID, right? The ID, let's say the person is not having an ID, right? So I leave the ID, and then the person is having a first name. So let's say the person's first name is say Aria, right? And remember that we need to put this one in quotes. Okay, and then the person's last name, right? So the last name, let's say the last name is Grandi, something like that, right? So this one needs to be in quote, and we can give the age to be say 20, and what else can we give? I think that's it, right? And then we close it. Right now, since we are going to do this, right, let me actually run this one so that you see what I want to show you over here. If I run this one, we have an error, right? Now the error is saying that the column count doesn't match, because we are giving what? We are giving 1, 2, 3 data points, or records here, right? Now if you want to put this one here, then I have to specify, right? So I have to come here and then specify which columns that I want to, right? So I want to insert into the first name, right? I want to insert into first name, then the last name, right? I also have the last name over there. Then I have the age. Okay, I have the age, so I put over there as well the age. All right, then these are the values that I want to insert. So in this case, the first name is gonna be in the first name, right? And then the last name is going to go into the last name, right? And then the age is going to go into the age column. So you need to specify if you're omitting some of the columns, otherwise you're going to have this error, right? So the first error that we got was because the table, the column names were not matching, right? The size were not matching. We're having 4 and we give 3 data points over here, which made us got an error. So we have solved that. So let's run it again and see. Okay, now we have a second error over here, which is saying that field ID doesn't have a default value. Now you have specified that it shouldn't be null. Meanwhile, it did not also give a default value. So the user did not give any value, but it cannot be empty, right? In that case, you need to either give a default value, or you need to take this one off, right, and then make it null. If you make it null, right, now let me drop this table, the one that we have, drop table, and then I'll create it again. Drop table persons, right? Persons. Then I'll create it again over here, right, for you to see. So let me run it again. Let me terminate this, and then I'll run this, all of them, for you to see. Okay, success. Now if we run this again, even though we have an ID over here, but since we have made it now, right, we have made it now, if we run this code, it's going to work successfully for us. Now I see that this time it's working and then giving us no error. If we check our, let me terminate it, right, if we check this table and then see, right, now inside the data, you see that we have now, because we did not give anything there, right, we declare it as now so they can leave it. Now see that we have area and then gradient and then 20 over there, right? So if you make this one not now, right, they cannot leave it, right? Now if I do it like this, right, so I'm going to run this, the entire this again, then I'm going to run this again. Now if we run it again, it's going to give us an error. You see that it's giving us an error. So you can either make it not now and then give a default over there, right, which you're going to learn down there. So let me actually straight away show you how you can do the default. Okay, so here I'm going to do, let me actually bring this one here. So this one was the unique, right, it's where we declare that this one should be unique, right, and here is going to be default. Okay, so let me show you how the default works. So that is a default constraints. Okay, or maybe just constraint is fine. So I'm not going to type it again. I'm just going to copy this one and bring it here. Now we know how to create these tables, right? So I'm just going to copy it and paste it over here. So I'm going to drop it and then recreate it. Okay, now in this case, we are specifying that the ID should be this, right? It should be not now. The first name should be Varka, and then the last name should be this. The age should be this. So let's say if the person does not enter their age, right, we should put a default value there, or maybe let's do it for the int. I mean the ID which we just did, right? So I can put here default. Okay, I can put here default, right? I can put default over here, and then the default value that I want it to be there. So default, maybe default 1, right? So if they don't add anything, or maybe let me put maybe default 100 so that it will be visible when we run the code. All right. Okay, so now I'm going to leave this one to be now, right? I'm going to leave this one to be now so that I can now give, if they decide not to give anything, then I can give a default value over there. All right. Okay, now I need to get rid of this comma over there, right? You don't need to bring any comma there, right? So this how it's gonna be. Then I put comma at the back over here. Now if they don't give any ID, the default value is going to be 100. Okay, so let me run this code again. Okay, now everything is successful. Now let's say that we want to do this. So let me go and copy this one. Let me bring this one over here again. Let me go down here. Okay, so I'm going to insert this data points over there. So let me maybe change this one to something like, say, John, right? Something like that. And well, let me say maybe John Mason, I don't know. And then the age, make it say 29. That's fine. Now we don't have the ID, but since we have given the default ID over there, that default ID is gonna be there. Okay, so let's run this one this time and see. Okay, now everything is fine. Now we need to do the select statement, or we need to use the select statement so that we see our results. Okay, so let me put the select statement over here and then run the select statement. Now you see that is there. Now you see that the ID is what, 100. Okay, the ID is 100, but this time we did not put say now over there, but it put the default value, right? Although we did not give any ID, but the default value is there. Okay, so this is how you do it. This is how you give I mean alternative. You fill in the data if they don't provide any data over there. Okay, so that's the default statement. Now let me show you how you can also do the primary key, right? Let me show you how you can do the primary key. So I'm going to do let me bring this one here. Let me just copy this one and then come down here. Then I'll put it over here, and then I do let me even get rid of all this and then write primary. Let me put all of them in caps. Primary key. Okay, so we're going to do the primary key as well. So now for the primary key, let me create a different table. It's just, you can use the same table, but let me just create a different table. So create table. Let's say the table name is going to be customers, something like that. Right, so let's say table name is customers, and inside the customers I'm going to put some stuff over there. So the first one that I'm going to put is going to be maybe the customer's name, right? So something like that. So the name, and then the name I declare it to be a variable character, so varchar. So the name of the customer, I don't know, let me give it something like 7 over here. And let's say the customer's name, the customer's product that the customer is gonna buy, right? So maybe the product is gonna be here, and it's gonna be varchar as well. Okay, and the product name is gonna be varchar, but the size here I'm going to give it like size like 13. All right, and then maybe the product ID. Okay, I can do product underscore ID, something like that, underscore ID. Okay, now that one should be an integer, right? That one should be an integer. Okay, then once that is done, I can now specify which of the columns that I've created should be primary key. Okay, which of them should be primary key? So in this case, I want the product ID to be primary key, so I just put it over there. Okay, just like that. I just put it over there. That should be my primary key. Okay, then finally I just close it and terminate the statement. Okay, so that's how you declare the primary key. Okay, so if I run this one over here, okay, everything is successful, and that column is actually going to be the primary key for us. Okay, let's refresh over here, and then we see that we have table customers, right? If we go to this settings over here, right, and then if you come here, you see that product ID is an integer, and see that PK, right, primary key, that column has been ticked as primary key, and we also have ticked as none now, right? So this by default, but if you don't want, you can just untick it over here. Okay, so either of them you can. If you do this thing, right, if you untick over here, if you come here, you see that the primary key is on tick. If I tick it and you come here, you see that the primary key is ticked, and then not now is also ticked over there, right? Because if it's a primary key, then it should not be a now, which means that you want a value there so that it should be it will uniquely identify that record, right? And then maybe you can take it as unique or whatever that you want. Okay, so you can do it either way. Just go, if you hover around over there, you see the settings over there. If you click it, then it will take you over here. Okay, so let me just go back to where we were, which is here. So that is a unique key for you, right? You can also declare it this way. Instead of maybe doing this way, I can just get rid of this and then put this primary key, copy it and put it over here. Okay, that one will also work for us. We can also do it this way, and that's it. All right, not that you should strictly bring it down here. You can also do it this way, and it is also going to work fine for you. All right, welcome back. Now let's say that you have the table already created, right, and you want to now add these constraints, right? So I'll show you the other constraint, but before I do that, let's do this one before we move on. So let's say we created this table, we did not add a constraint over there, right? Let's say we did not add a constraint over there, or maybe we want to add another constraint to any of the any of the points over here. Okay, or maybe let me choose a different one over here. So let's say in this person's table, right, in this person's table, I want to add a unique I want to add a primary key over here. So what I can do is this. I can use the alter statement. Okay, I can use the alter statement, and this is how I'm gonna do it. Let me first bring this one over here, and then over here I'm going to write altering existing table. right? And then in brackets, I'm going to write adding a constraint. Okay, so you can do it that way. The table can exist and you can do so. I'm going to use the alter statement, and then I'm going to alter a table. Which table am I going to alter? I'm going to alter the person's table. Okay, now once I do this, I can now add primary key, right? So add primary key, and I want to add it on let's go and see the person's table. I want to add it on the ID. Okay, I want to add primary key on the ID, so I can do this right now. Once I do this, that's it. If I run it over here for you to see, everything is successful. Okay, everything is successful. Now if you go and inspect it, let me refresh this one, right? So if I go to the person's table, right, this is the person's table. Inside that we have columns over there, and then the ID, right? So let me actually click on this settings, and then if you come here and then you see the int, the ID, you see that it's int, and then it is primary, right? It is primary. Okay, here you can add, you can just do it this way and then come and add it over here, or you can just write the code like I did earlier on also. Okay, so you can do it either way, and it's still going to work fine for you. Okay, so let's say for instance this one, right? Let's say we want the age to be none now, right? So here we made it now. So let's say we want it to be not now. So for that, you just go to it's the person's table, right? So you go to the person's table, you click on that settings, right? That small settings thing over there, and then the age, you can tick the not now. Once you do that, it's done. If you come here and see that's not now, right? So they cannot now enter a data without enter a data into this person's table, right? Enter a data into this person's table, and then leave this one blank. It will not accept it, right? You're going to have an error over there. All right, so that's how you do it. You can either come here and then do it, or you can just write the code like yes, don't save it. You can just write the code and add it explicitly over there. All right, now this one is altering existing table and then adding a constraint. You can also drop the constraint. Okay, so let me just add some constraint, create some table, add some constraint, and then we can drop it over here. Okay, so let me do this: altering existing table, dropping a constraint. So instead of adding, I'm going to put dropping over here. All right, I'm going to put dropping over here. Now I'm going to create a table, right? So I'm going to do create table, and then which table should I create now? Maybe create table students, right? Maybe create table students, right? So let me first have we created any table students? We have a table called students, so let me just do something different over here. Maybe passengers, something like that, right? And then inside that, what should I create? Well, one, I'm going to create the person's first name, right? So I'm just gonna do first underscore name, right? And I'm just going to it's gonna be varchar, right? Variable character, and I'm going to give it as 10 over here, put comma. Let me just copy this one, bring it down here. Then this one is gonna be their last name. Okay, and maybe something like mobile, right? And the mobile is gonna be int, right? And maybe their ticket number, right? Something like that. So ticket underscore number, right? And that is also going to be varchar, right? So it could be a mix of numbers and characters. In that case, it's just going to be varchar. If it's a mix of numbers and characters, it's going to be varchar. Okay, ticket number, I just want to be 5. All right, so now here I've not added any constraint, whether it should be int or whether it should be not null and all that. I've not added those kind of things, right? So I'm going to do this. Let me terminate this statement up here. I'm going to create this table passenger, right? Let me run it and see everything is fine. Now if I if I do select star from this passenger, right? So I'm just gonna select everything that is there, right? So let me run it for you to see. Okay, now you see that first name, last name, mobile, and then ticket number. We don't have data points in there. We can put data points if we want, but first let me leave it. What I want to show you is this, right, where you can drop these constraints. So here we did not add the constraints. What I'm going to do is to add constraints over here for you to see. So I'm going to do alter table, right, and then the table name is what? Passengers. And what I want to do is to add constraints, right? I want to add constraint over here, and then here I give the name of the constraint, right? So what I'm going to do here is that I'm going to make this mobile number and also the ticket, right? I want unique mobile numbers and then unique tickets, right? So that I will not have duplicate mobile numbers and then duplicate tickets. So I'm going to name the name of the constraint. Maybe I will name it as say UC underscore, and then maybe UC underscore passengers, something like that. And then I put this once over here, mobile, comma, ticket number over there. Okay, now the particular constraint that I want is I want them to be unique. Okay, so this is how you do it. I want them to be unique. Let me terminate this statement. Now when I do this and then run it, everything works fine, right? So I've created constraint for these two, right, at once. Instead of doing them one by one like this one, right, I can also do it this way. Now we have successfully added this one. Now if I want to drop this one, the only thing that I have to do is to do this. I have to do alter, right, alter table passengers, then I do drop index, right, and then the name of the constraint that I did, right? So I pick that one, then I put it over here. Okay, so that's it. Now I have to just terminate this one, come here, and then run it again. Right now everything works. Now the constraint has been dropped. So if you go here, if you go to the passengers, you see that we don't have anything. At first we made the mobile, right, we made the mobile unique, and also we made the ticket number unique, right? But now you can see that they are not there, right? They are not there. Okay, so now it has dropped successfully, right? It has dropped successfully over there. All right, so that's how you do it. Okay, so you can add constraints on multiple columns, and then you can also drop them if you want. All right, so now I'm going to show you a different constraint. All right, welcome back. Now we're going to also see with in the previous video we've learned how to do primary key, how to add primary key, how to alter an existing table and then add primary key, right, or add any constraint that you want. Okay, now in this particular lesson we're also going to learn how to add foreign key, right? So let me bring this one here, and then I'm going to put here foreign, right, foreign key. All right, so let's see how we do that. So now I'm going to create a new table over here. I'm going to do create table, and then maybe I just name it as customers, right? And inside that I'm going to give the maybe the customer's ID, right? So let me maybe name it as customer ID, right? And then this customer ID, I want it to be an integer, and then I want it to be a not now, right? And what else? Maybe the customer's first name, so first underscore name, and that is going to be Valka say 20. I misspelled it. If this thing doesn't show color coded, it means that you've misspelled it. Okay, and then last underscore name, right? That is also going to be Valka, so maybe the same Valka 20 over here. And then maybe the age of the customer, right? Let me do it this way. That is gonna be int. All right, and then maybe I can now declare, right, declare that the customer ID should be primary. Okay, the customer ID should be primary over here. All right, let me terminate this particular statement. All right, so this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to say that it should be primary key. All right, the customer ID should be primary key. All right, so this is going to be the first table that we are creating. All right, so let me run this one. I forgot to bring the bracket. All right, so let me do that. Now if I run this one, okay, now it's saying that customers table customers already exist. So for that, I can now drop it, or maybe just rename it, right? Maybe customer 2, right? Or customer 3, something like that. I can just rename it that way. Let me run it again. Okay, good, everything works fine. Now I'm going to create another table, right? Maybe orders table, right? So create table, and then I'll name it as orders. All right, and then inside that I'm going to have, say, order ID, right? Which have the order ID, which is going to be an int, and I want it to be not null, right? And then maybe the order number, let me actually do it this way, order number, right, which is also going to be int, and I'm going to say that it should also be not now. And in the order table, I want to put customer ID over there. Okay, I want to add customer ID over there so that there will be a relationship between these two. Okay, if I want to retrieve information about this customer, I can retrieve information from the customers table, and I can also retrieve information from the orders table at the same time using the what is common in between them, which is the customer's ID. Okay, so this one I want it to be int. Now once I do this, now I can declare which one should be the primary key and which one should be the foreign key here. Okay, so this order ID is going to be the primary key on this table. Okay, it's going to be the primary key over here. All right, and then the customer ID, which I had already created on this table, right, is going to be a foreign key over here. Okay, it's going to be a foreign key over here. I think I misspelled this one, right? Yes, it's gonna be like that. So let me copy this one and then come and paste it over here, right? So that's how it's gonna be. Comma should be here, comma should be here, and then finally I'm going to terminate the bracket. All right, and then let me terminate this statement up here. Okay, so this is how you're going to create it. Now once I do that, I need to show where this one is coming from, where the custom ID is coming from. Okay, so for that, what you do is that you add this keyword references. Okay, references, then the table that is referencing, right? So it's referencing this table, that is, it's coming from this table over here. Okay, it's referencing this table, and on this table it's referencing this ID. Okay, it's referencing this ID. So this is how you do it. Okay, this is how you do it. And then finally you can now close this bracket and then terminate it. Okay, so let me terminate this one. Now everything is fine. So we've been able to create a foreign key over here, which is coming from this table, right? And then we show where it was coming from by using references, then customer 2, that's the table name, and then the column over there. So now if I run this one, you see that everything works fine, right? Everything works fine for us. So that's how you create a foreign key.